Yeah, apparently. All right. All right. Well, send Patriarch. Good to see you. And since I have you all to myself, can you put some insulation in the walls, please? Grass and I are getting cold. Yep. What happened? I was gone for 30 minutes. Don't worry about it. I was doing the segment, and then my split cam failed while I was yelling at chat. And, okay. All right, cool. All right. And since Boomer points is Boomer, unfortunately. Who broke what? Me. Classic yelling at chat movement. True. Doobie set off his IED. Maybe. All right, hold on. I have to reset up fucking everything because of the fucking crash out and accidentally hitting the fucking power strip. So give me a second. Let me pull up the Asmongold segment again. All right. Blah, 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 blah. All right. And ladies and gentlemen, I've already made my position super fucking clear. I think I've made my line super clear. I don't care if you're a chipper. I don't care if you're an oiler. I don't care if you're a veteran. If you can't keep your opinion to yourself about thought crimes in reference to jacking off the kids, and or
time for you to leave the IHOP.
That's a deal breaker for you, then I need you to leave. I would rather, like, straight up, fucking Patriarch is on a 24-hour. I don't know if he's coming back. Maybe he'll be so fucking pissed that he doesn't come back. Maybe he'll fucking just say, you know what, I love the cog enough that we're not going to talk about this topic. But I'm telling you, I would rather lose this job than have that be a common sentiment in my community. All right. Anyways, let's go ahead and just... What? Why is my volume not working? Oh shit, what the fuck did I miss? Oh my god. Okay. I'm going to explain it from my perspective. Really briefly, and hopefully we can get back to the content, because everybody's been bitching, hey Connor, focus on the content. Okay? Literally, I'm trying to move on. You guys are not letting me move on. Yeah. And you don't think that implies that if someone is jacking off to kids in the privacy of their own bedroom, then they have the right to do it, and no one should criticize that. That's the obvious inference. No shit. All right, sorry. All right, let me try to... Christian Valeris asked, so he can't complain about me telling him what happened if he fucking asked. Okay, so what happened was, I mentioned the fact that Food Shops is now getting in trouble with the snarker community because she was caught sexting a minor. And I said, oh my god, isn't it so fucking obvious that a lolicon pedophile trying to normalize being a lolicon pedophile in the space would likely have the correlated behavior of trying to sex somebody who was underage, who looked even more underage, and then engaged in age play with said minor. Right? That's the allegations. It seems as obvious to me as water is wet. Oh, wow, a lolicon pedophile was trying to groom a child. Shocking, right? And to anybody who has above 80 IQ, this is not shocking. But I have a bunch of 3,000 IQ fucking liberals who want to do triple fucking backflips to justify how if you jack off to a bear in the woods and no one hears you come, it's not a big deal. But in this case, instead of jacking off to a bear, you're jacking off to a child. Right? So I brought that up before we started doing the content. Then we started doing the content. I forget how the fucking Food Shop's Destiny thing comes up, but Demon King Drago makes a fucking Fourth Amendment argument that he is insisting is not a Fourth Amendment argument about like your freedom to jack off to whatever you want to jack off to without criticism. And I bring up how I feel like that's sweeping for the exact people that I'm criticizing. I don't agree. And if this is a fucking problem, then you need to leave. And then Patriarch, who I do love like a brother, who I do hope stays in the community, who gave me $150 fucking dollars, then they fucking said, oh no, thought crimes. And I gave him 24 hours. Because I don't give a shit how much money or how much of a veteran you fucking are. If you want to sweep for fucking jacking off to kids, you can leave. All right? I'm out. PDF slop. Either way, it's not how I want to spend my morning. Good for you. All right? So I've drawn this line a month ago, 2 weeks ago, and now. If you have this like fucking, if I jack off to kids in the woods and no one hears me come, there's no big deal argument, I don't want to hear about it. Okay? I want you to either shut the fuck up or I want you to leave the community. It's not my brand. It's not who I want to be. It's not who I want to be associated with. It's not who I want to support me. Okay? It's that fucking simple. It's really that simple. Oh, yeah. And then I got to bring up the fact, hold on. If somebody jacks off in the fucking woods to kids and nobody hears, did it really happen or does it really matter? Here's the other situation that I articulated. I talked to Devil 48 hours ago. He told me that he was angry with me because Child Protective Services came to his house based off of my reporting. I'm happy they went out there. Okay? And so what I was saying was, Destiny, clearly engaging with a mentally ill woman, masturbating to the idea of molesting her kids, and her masturbating to the thought of molesting his kids, is way too fucking far for me. It's way too far. It's gross. And I reported them to law enforcement to make sure that no children were actually being harmed and no lewd and lascivious material of children was exchanged between these two people. And it's going to be up to Miami-Dade police on whether or not they do a warrant for Discord and whether or not they pull those records or whether or not it's not high enough of a priority for them to investigate. But Child Protective Services has already gone to the jurisdiction in Alabama with Brittany. And now it's a conversation between Brittany and Devil on who gets custody of the kids. Because basically, Devil has a record, and so his custody could be disputed. But then Brittany is clearly like a mentally ill sexual fucking freak who did this gross, egregious shit. And so Devil, unrelated to my report, to be clear, unrelated to my report, was stating that Brittany was considering, don't know if it's going to happen, considering giving up custody of her kids. So should I have friends that jack off to the idea of molesting some random person's kids? The answer is no. And do I want community members who defend that behavior because they say, oh, well, as long as it all stays within the realm of fantasy, it's no skin off of my ass? I don't want you. Okay? I don't want you. I would rather go to 30 viewers. I would rather lose Oilers. I would rather lose Chippers than have you as a member of the community. So if you're an Oiler, if you're a Chipper, If I've had this line for a month. I've had this line for a month. It is no longer my problem. It is your problem. So if you're a community member and you've enjoyed the COG for the past year, and you have to tell me about the fact that you think that it's morally neutral for people to fantasize about masturbating to children and you can't keep it to yourself, I would truly prefer that you click the back button, you unsubscribe to the channel, you announce that you're leaving in the Discord, and you leave the Discord. And you guys can go make the pedophile COG. Okay? You guys can go make the COG where it's okay to jack off to kids, but you will not be a part of my community. Okay? I've drawn my line in the sand. I've drawn it in the sand for the past month. You either get with the program or you get the fuck out. Okay? I'm not kidding. Like, I'll say it again. I love Patriarch just fine. I sympathize with him as a Ukrainian. I think it sucks that his country is getting invaded. I hope that there's more liberal, conservatarian Ukrainians in the future. I wish him all the best in the armed conflict that is going on in his country. And I'm thankful that for the past year, he has been willing to give sizable amounts of money to the community because he's had the financial means to do so. This is a hard line for me. It's a hard line for me. So you make a choice. Anyways. Somebody did super chat. Nameless Henchman for 5 says, Cotter, with POTUS 46 tier inept boomer rage of an alien food stamps recipient on oxygen, except with more leg mobility. Only slightly more leg mobility, but thank you for the super chat. All right. Charlie November says, why do we need to have this conversation? It's your community. Kick anyone you want. No. Yeah. The pedophile COG, what the fuck? Yeah, go for it. You want to create your fucking break-off community where jacking off to kids is cool? Go for it. But you're not going to be a part of my Discord. You're not going to be a part of my chat. All right? All right. Are we ready to continue the content? Yes or no? Matter of fact, here we go. Here's a poll. Are we ready to do Asmongold content? Question mark. Yes. Yes. We will shut the fuck up about pedo shit. No. Let's crash out as a community more. All right. Go ahead and vote. If you guys want to crash out for another 30 minutes to an hour, we can crash out for another fucking 30 minutes to an hour, but there's your poll. And what I expect is at the end of the poll, that's what we're going to do. And I don't want to hear any fucking complaints. No, let's crash out as a community. Why is crash out as a community winning? Why is crash out winning? Oh my God. What is wrong with you? Oh my God. Is crash out winning? Why is crash out winning? Oh my God. Dude. The move on to content people have to get over 50%. so I can end the poll and stop the count. No way. All right, that's funny. That's funny. That's okay. It's okay. We'll wrap it. Thank you to Relapsing Hero Complex for the membership. Thank you to Vazraka for the gifted. That's so bad. That is so bad. So, we were voting on whether or not we continue to crash out about fucking food shops, Destiny drama, and whether or not there are liberals who, on principle, defend that whatever you jack off to in your own mind is your own business and nobody should give a shit. Whereas my argument has been, well, it hasn't been private, has it? They leaked the information there to a public figure. I am a public figure. And therefore, I'll go ahead and accept Patriarch's primary argument. I'll accept the fact that I blew up the scenario. I'll accept that. But at the same time, these people were not keeping it private. Like, let's go ahead and look up the definition of private real quick. Private. Definition. The word private generally refers to anything restricted for a particular person, group, or entity rather than the public. Well, they might have kept it private between me and them, but they were keeping it private with dozens of people. They were telling anybody who would, Devil would tell anybody who would listen. Brittany would tell anybody who was listen. So while they were hiding behind the ostensible level of like continued private communications, once you DM 30 fucking people, I don't think it's private anymore. No, we're not going to do drama slop. We're going to keep going with the Asmongold thing. But I do, okay, I am going to continue with the Asmongold thing. I'm going to end the poll. But I do think it's funny that I literally asked you guys, should we keep doing a fucking... Oh, and that's with 40 votes, too. 39 votes. The community is 50 people. And 39 people voted, and we had a 60-40 split. Where 60% of the community, even if there were a few drama frogs who snuck in, voted to continue the drama crash out. That's pretty funny. A call-in segment for Chaos Coggers who want to argue might be healthy and funny. It would not be healthy for me. I will crash the fuck out. I will crash the fuck out. Oh my god, this is exactly the same as Destiny sharing Pixie's tape with Rose versus Solo publishing it to the world. Ha ha ha. I don't think it's funny at all, Jen Winkler. And on top of that, I would say that, what is it? Steven sending homemade pornography to somebody who's known for 2 weeks was reckless and retarded. And there's no fucking way that after consistent shit that it would remain private. Additionally, I think there's moral things that you're not considering. So for instance, why were Lauren Southern's DMs shared with Rose? What do Lauren Southern's DMs have to do with anything? Why were Lauren, like, seriously, why was audio recordings of Sherry and Steven engaging in sex acts being shared with a stranger? Yeah, sure. I mean, if you want to isolate it to private public distinction, that's fine. I'll accept that there is a Solo is the one who published it and therefore did the most harm. But I think we can all agree that Steven was endlessly fucking reckless. But do you have some kind of moral excuse for why he was sharing Lauren Southern's DMs? I don't think you do. I don't think anybody does. Yeah. I'll admit that I've voted to rage bait you. Yeah, Miradol, you're getting demodded not because I hate you for being a snarker. It's just because I demodded everybody in the past couple of weeks. Except for actual mods. Yeah, why did he share Melina's therapy records? Why was that not? Why is it necessary starting a new sexting relationship with an 18-year-old sex worker to share Melina's therapy records? What's the moral justification for that? Nameless Henchman says, too big to rig, chaos today, chaos tomorrow, chaos forever. Thank you for the super chat, but also fuck you. Adonic Samuel with the 5 says, Connor, dry aged beef is fucking amazing. We may need a grilling intervention. That's fine. Talk to the girlfriend about it. She's a professional griller. If I eat it and it tastes great, I'm not gonna complain about it. I just get a little bit worried about. We were reading that dry aged beef earlier. We were reading how it's kept in a sanitized, air moving, refrigerated environment where bacteria can't grow. And so, I mean, if it tastes good, it tastes good. I'll just tell you that, like, the process of letting something rot on purpose freaks me the fuck out. It's okay. I don't care about mod. Good. This is why the Darius and Connor combo was needed? Probably. Gray Lives Matter? True. Literally no reason to share your wife's private therapy documents. Turnout was crazy. True. North Korea style turnout, I know. Your girlfriend is a professional griller, yet you got food poisoning from Taco Bell. She took me to Taco Bell. Are we getting a VOD? Are you completely... I'm going to force... If this ever becomes a VOD, I'm going to force fucking Arthur to clip the original, start, finish, clip, and then whenever we actually start the content, we're going to have a hard cutoff and we're going to stop talking about drama. I'm just like... I'm trying to let the drama flames burn out a little bit. Because what'll happen is if I start the content again and then somebody brings up something that fucking triggers me, then I start screaming at them again. I'm only going to be here for another 90 minutes. I got shit to do. So I'm only going to be here for like another 90 minutes to 2 hours, regardless of whether or not Dan Pace is available. So, because I got pre-recorded shit I got to work on. I've needed, because I got sick, because I was in the hospital for 2 days, and because I've had the kids so much, because it's Father's Day, I've had to work around the kids. I've had to work around being sick. So I am super far behind on post-recorded content. I'm getting shit out, but it's hard. So Arthur needs head pads. We all need head pads. Yeah. The actual vid's going to be like 10 minutes. I know. The trigger did go bang. My apologies for crashing out so fucking hard, but like, seriously, guys, like, hold on. Can I be real with like the true cog for a second? I'm trying to move on. Okay? I don't want to spend my digital career talking about food shops being a fucking degenerate and Destiny slowly but surely ruining his life through sex addiction. That's not how I want to spend the next like 5 to 10 years of my life. I actually think that attacking the grift right, attacking the gamer right, attacking the dissident right, that's probably what I should have been doing the entire time. But I got stuck in Twitch and YouTube politics as a liberal heel, where like for the liberals, I was just right-wing enough to argue with, but I wasn't so right-wing to completely dismiss all of my opinions. And then for leftists, they fucking love fighting me because I was basically like a fascist. I was like a fascist that they could fight for fun and spar, and I wouldn't call them terms of service slurs. So I kind of, unfortunately, my niche, my role within the Twitch and YouTube political space was being a liberal heel, right? But that obviously limited my growth. I have 50 passionate Lockheed liberal people, 70% of whom are Lockheed liberal, 20 to 30% of whom are conservatarian. And I love you guys. I do. I love Patriarch. parasocially, of course. But like, I love the community that we fostered, but this rift over the Destiny thing has been painful. So it's painful on a personal level. Like, obviously, I don't like losing a friendly association that I had for 6 years. I don't like losing an IRL friendship that I thought I had for 2 years. I don't like the situation at all. But, you know, I also don't want to spend all of my time in this kind of like emotional content purgatory. Like, I do want to move on. But this drama has a hard line. And the hard line is liberals and I disagree on a fundamental question of morality. When it comes to your private sexual conduct, is there any kind of moral criticism to the things that you choose to sexually fantasize about? I'm saying that there is a moral avenue to the sexual things that you choose to engage in, because the more you engage with it, the more you incentivize your desire to engage with that sexual proclivity. The food shop's revelations were wildly predictable, and I feel like that's evidence of my perspective. And yet, there are liberals who are consistently insistent that there is no any moral criticism of what you choose to indulge yourself with sexually, that you can't morally criticize it. It's the concept of the Fourth Amendment. And Demon King Drago doesn't agree with me, but I stand by exactly what the fuck I just said. It's like you think that you enter into a moral vacuum the second you close the door and start fucking beating it. And that, in my worldview, that's not true. So, if you are insistent that when you privately fantasize with a door locked, that you can jack off to whatever you want to, I don't want to hear about it. Because whenever we're talking about Steven and when we're ever talking about food shops, we're talking about beating off to kids. And I don't want people who think it's morally neutral to jack off to kids in my community. I don't care if you're a veteran. I don't care if you're an oiler. I don't care if you're a chipper. You either need to keep it to yourself or you need to leave. And at this point, it's been a month. So like, I understand that there's like a little bit of transition pains where I'm being criticized by people outside the community. I'm getting angry. I'm crashing out. I'm yelling at people, all that kind of stuff. I understand there's some transition pains, but this perspective that I've had, that you either need to shut the fuck up or you need to leave, I said that a month ago. I said that 2 weeks ago. I said that now. So at this point, it's not on me, okay? If you think that you have to argue this point in my chat, or you have to argue this point in my Discord, you need to leave. I don't care how much money you've given me. Leave. Literally go to the announcements. Go to the fucking chill chat. Go at here. Connor has made it clear that we have a distinct moral difference. I don't think I'm going to be able to be quiet about this. Therefore, I'm leaving the cog, and leave the Discord. And then same thing with chat. Hey, this is a hard line. I don't think I can not talk about it. I have to be able to talk about this. Therefore, I got to dip out, and then go click the back button. Sorry. This is as far as we go. I hate that. I hate that. I'm sure we will lose half a dozen people that we have treasured for a long time. But I'm telling you, this is my line. Anyways, let me engage with chat for a little bit. That way we can burn out the last of the drama flames before we get going. Christian theocrats are the greatest threat to America. This is all Connor wants. I do want to move on. I do want to criticize the dissident right, the grifter right, and the gamer right. Let's talk about right-wing degenerates. I agree. Connor, have you considered switching to wearing suits and worshiping the Chinese Communist Party? Yes, but I won't. Han's ready to eat a fucking band with that one. What's the last one he said? I don't see the last one he said, but I do see the next one he said. That might be a ban. Calling his behavior sex addiction is a massive understatement. The issue isn't the sex itself, it's lack of consent and the total disregard for moral boundaries that makes it disgusting. Sure. I think the reason why I say sex addiction is because I obviously have a more aggressive position on Steven's behavior, but even his best friends probably admit that he's some level of sex addicted. So Grassroots Hegemon for 5 says, in the COG, the only moral sexual activity is with Chat's mom. Correct. And Chat's mom is over the age of 18. It's unfortunate, but the determination on what the right-winger conservative is whether you think Trump is better than Biden, all Dems. If you disagree, the online right views you as the opposition. Correct. Finding the food shop things predictable is what your cop experience or just life experience? I don't know. You know, this isn't a liberal thing anywhere else, right? We never talk about this level of degeneracy. Maybe not having the First Amendment makes it easy for us to just accept limits. Interesting. I don't know if that's relevant. Why, though, is that not a valid question? If you want to stunt people for it or ostracize it, I'm okay with it. As long as you can convince the masses, I say good luck with your endeavor. Well, thanks, Hans. Good luck. Am I back? Oh, shit, I am. Oh, I thought I gave you 24 hours, Patriarch. Well, I guess I gave you 30. Or somebody unbanned you. It's fine. Did I have a surge of conscience? No. My conscience is still very much solidified in my perspective. Connor, I hope you have this amount of judgment and intolerance for the things I show you I found in the politics Discord. Okay. Zionist infighting, love to see it. True. Don't you love it? Don't you love when a tepid Zionist finds pedophilia disgusting? Oh shit, what did I miss? We're not going over it again. Rewind the VOD. The internet is a weird place. If you meet any of these degenerate people in real life, you would not want them as friends or anywhere near your family. Correct. Tomorrow should be about the COG. It's really unfortunate it's being taken over again. Relax. Chat's mom gets you the AARP discount at Denny's and couldn't suck a golf ball through a garden hose because of her VO2 max not being strong enough. True. Why does it say it started 35 minutes ago? Because when I was trying to fix my camera, I accidentally bumped into my power cord and I shut down the stream. Per usual. There's no trial, Doobie. You were unbanned and you have full access to the Cargo 7, and I can chat tomorrow if you can do whatever you want. Well, no. Valor Facts, I'm talking about, when I talk to you about being a cop, let's talk about this now while we're at it. Mods are moderators, which means that they are moderating the community, which means that they are policing behavior. But I want to have a liberal or libertarian perspective as much as I can within my moral framework, which says that as long as you're not being antisocial, you're not being a freak, you're not fucking, calling people pedophiles or calling their character into question without evidence, as long as you're not being a total cunt, I don't care if you come to the YouTube chat.
Food shops is a retard, okay?
True. I don't care if you come to the chat, hang out in chat, talk about geopoll shit, talk about whatever content we're actually doing that day, throw a super chat or two. I don't care. The chat is more loose than the Discord. Now, with the Discord, I do think that since it's a more private community, we have a little bit more of a duty to cultivate a sense of communication that's like happy and healthy. So if there's let's say that Doobie actually does bring in a ton of snarkers and they don't want to talk about geopolitics, they just want to talk about how bad, Destiny is. Well, then at that point, I think segregating them to a, sub-community of the COG where you could hang out and chill chat, never bump into these people, never even see the word Destiny ever again. But on a volunteer basis, if you wanted to go into the snarker fucking playpen, then you could go into the snarker playpen. I think that's a fair compromise. where the snarkers feel like they still have a place to communicate their ideas, hopefully in good faith. And the COG members who truly are trying to grill, trying to find friends, trying to have a good time on the internet, trying to find reasonable people, they can still have like a grill space. Like I almost want like it's not secret, it would be public, it would just be segregated. We would be being racist against the snarkers. It would be anti-snark racism. And by the way, if there were like DGG anti-snarkers who all they wanted to talk about was how amazing Destiny was and how he's never done anything wrong, I would throw them into the fucking the snark sub community as well. But there should be a place to grill, and there should be a place to talk about drama, and there should be a place to talk about geopol. Yeah, not secret, just quarantined. Correct. So that's where, for me, the snarkers and the anti-snarkers could have their own segregated subspace. I would ask Connor to get a soundboard, but he really uses the Bob Ross wig. He barely uses the Bob Ross wig anymore. I know, but I use it enough in order to get your money out of it, I think. I had the California roll and a roll called a Buick. That's awesome. If you talk about happy and healthy discourse that runs parallel to respect, and respect is a two-way street, let's be real about that. For sure. For sure. But that's why I would segregate the spaces. Is it a doxing server? No. Separate and unequal on purpose. All right. Okay. I'm gonna try the poll again. Are we ready for content? Question mark. Yes. Let's move on. No. Let's bitch about community dynamics. All right. Starting the poll again. Do you guys want to bitch about community dynamics for another 20 to 30 minutes, or do you want to move into the content? If we lose again, I'm going to laugh. I'm going to laugh really fucking hard if we lose again. Segregation, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever. True. No, let's talk shit about community dynamics. Started winning again. Anonymous chatter says, do you think you can do immoral actions on an island all by yourself? Yeah, probably. Probably. Like, so for instance, like, let's say that there were like turtles and that was your only food source. You could only eat like turtles or fish. You know, they're creatures. They're not as sapient or sentient as a human, but they still have some degree of sentience. And so you can catch a turtle and you can chop its head off, or you can catch a fish and chop its head off and end its misery immediately. Or you can catch an animal and then you can torture it over the course of several hours. Well, even without exterior human judgment, I would still view torturing a sentient being as immoral, even if there wasn't like a broader society with which to judge you. So. Hans wants answers to his question. Do you want to prosecute thought crime? No. But I do want to police who's around me. So for instance, if a lolicon jacks off in the privacy of their own home and their proclivities never have public impact, should they be incarcerated? I think the answer is probably no, right? Just based off of like a liberal, libertarian understanding of the law. But should you as an individual, or should you as a member of society, publicly take the stance that masturbating to the idea of having sex with children is antisocial and bad, and anytime it comes up in discourse, you should be willing to criticize it even if it doesn't have criminal impact? I think the answer has to be a strong yes. And I think I'm also trying to police the people who are associated with me. The adrenaline makes it taste better? Fuck you. Let's say no animals, you just got coconuts and soybeans. No animals, coconuts, and soybeans. What's an immoral action that you could do on an island without exterior social judgment, with just fauna to subsist off of and no animals? I'd have to think about that. Weirdly enough, so moral, weirdly enough, is like this, it's this very amorphous, ephemeral term, where moral is the analysis of good and bad, but then you get into the dynamics of what is good and what is bad. And then you start debating like longevity and vitality and all that kind of stuff. And so is there moral content to, let's say that you're on a deserted island with only flora, flora, no fauna. I think one of the moral choices you would have to make is whether or not you commit suicide and whether or not you persist. And I think that most humans would say, prescriptively, you should try to persist for as long as possible in hope of rescue. Whereas committing suicide would be like a moral choice. Now, the truth is, I think depending on circumstance, like suicide, let's say that you had like a long-term ailment that was making your existence miserable, then suicide might actually be the moral choice. But then let's say that you were like perfectly healthy, you just committed suicide out of boredom. That would also be a moral choice. And I think you could make like graded judgments on that. But of course, like committing suicide when you're socially isolated for years, I have infinitely more sympathy for that potentially mildly immoral choice compared to the idea of masturbating to children. So I know that you guys want to kind of like isolate the conception of, can an individual be immoral when they're by themselves? But I think you're just going to have to accept the answer that my answer is yes. And if you disagree with it, it just is what it is. AK Batusai, I said, I think I just being way too nuanced because to judge things in a good, better, best context, it takes away from calling something good, but it also takes a bit to call something bad. Sure, morality, when you just use the definition of morality of the analysis of good and bad, it gets tough to talk about, and people try to silo out those things. And I don't view the siloing out as like bad faith. I think they're trying to have a better conversation, but it does make it difficult. Should they be on the registry? I say no, because no crime has been committed, but if it becomes known, they should be heavily criticized, incentivized to change, or ostracized. Sure. But what I'm trying to do, Christian Valeris, which I want to point out to the people at home, is I'm not calling for like a legal thing right now. If food shops committed some kind of crime by knowingly sexually communicating with a minor, then and that violates a statute, they should be prosecuted, obviously. If they haven't violated a statute, then they shouldn't be prosecuted, but they should be morally condemned. Same thing with Destiny's scenario, is that like, if they pull up, let's say that Miami-Dade gets a hair up their ass and they have nothing else to do that day, they submit a warrant for Stephen and Britt's Discord logs, they find a bunch of gross sex shit, but then they don't find anything that meets the threshold of violating a criminal statute, then it should just be like, okay, that's gross. These people are fucking gross, and we should ostracize them socially a little bit, but we'll all move on. Whereas, if they've committed a criminal statute, then of course they should be held accountable for it. But I don't feel guilty for drawing attention to antisocial sexual behavior that was made public via 2 or 3 different people. I don't feel guilty about that, nor do I feel guilty about reporting it to law enforcement. I don't feel guilty at all. I sleep better having reported it. Grassroots Pretend says, I think we can all agree that if you get off in the comfort of your own home to the idea of leaving your car in the middle of the parking lot at Walmart, we can wood chipper you. See? It's not just pedophilia. It's also shitty parking jobs. But society seems to leave the door open for personal actions that are not illegal and also wouldn't be celebrated. Sure. And AK Batusai, if you want to split, you like if you want to split the difference on this, if you want to, if you want to split the difference on this, and you want to say, Connor, you're acting with the righteous indignation and emotion of arrest or legal consequence. So that's what I'm pushing back on, because I think while these behaviors are gross, people should not be incarcerated for them. Then, yeah, like we could split the difference, and I would just say, no, depending on the behavior, I don't think this should be incarcerated behavior. I just think that this is behavior I don't want around me. And I don't want excuse making for the behavior around me. Okay? You know what's funny? Let's bitch about community dynamics. That is currently winning with 55 or 51% of the vote. 55% of the vote has said, let's continue to bitch about community dynamics. The drama frogs have won again. I'm okay with that. If you can convince most of society, it's okay with me. Good luck with that. I'm okay with that. If you can convince most of society, it's okay with me. Good luck with that. Okay. You understand part of like do they call it deontology? Let me take a look at before I misuse philosophical terms, let me take a look at what deontology is. Deontology definition. Deontology is an ethical theory that judges the morality of an action based on whether or not the action itself is right or wrong. You understand from a deontological perspective that I don't care if most of society agrees with me. I truly don't care. If 51% of society votes jacking off to kids is morally neutral, I don't care. It has no bearing on what I believe. Jen Winkler says, oh my God, I keep leaving and I keep coming back. It's the same thing again. Definitely no VOD except for the other people who are making it their VOD. Well, 55% of the community has voted to continue bitching about community dynamics. So all I'm doing is I'm listening to the democratic will of the people. Although 51% of people have said, yes, let's move on. I'll give it like one more minute. And then we will move on. Why the fuck do I want to be there? I can tell someone's a piece of shit. I don't have to litigate it. Okay? I'm always going to pick that even if I don't really want it. Ew, deontology. You called it immoral. I think it's ugly and gross. What are synonyms for ugly and gross? But I don't know that harm there is in it. Was curious where it was coming from. Well, hold on. You understand once again that morality is the analysis of good and bad. So if you think it's ugly and gross, I would say that even you think it's bad, and therefore it has moral content. So weirdly enough, all that's happening between you and me, anonymous chatter, is you're saying, I find it bad, but I don't find it bad to the same degree that you do. And if you are a more liberal-minded person who values freedom to a large degree, and I am a conservatarian who values freedom to some degree, but I also calculate in a healthy chunk of other virtues and vices, then that makes perfect sense. Why that of course that makes sense. Patch Happens says, I have to go and stop to work, but I dropped a move on vote in the poll. Anyways, good luck. Thank you, Patch Happens. Appreciate you. Same here. I would care less what most of society thinks. I walk my own path. Yeah. But, well, so somebody says like deontology is bad and stupid and smooth-brained. What if you lived in ancient Aztec society and you thought that child sacrifice was fucked up? Should you just go along with child sacrifice because a majority of the population believes that child sacrifice is good? No, you would still say, no, I still think, sacrificing children to the sun god is fucked up. Appeals to the popular notions are not very strong to me. There's plenty of things that have been popular that were fucking horrific. The Crusades were popular. The Muslim conquests were popular. The Reconquista was popular. The Holocaust was popular. The Armenian genocide was popular. These are all actions. The Khanate dynasty, the conquests of Eurasia by the Mongols by the Mongols was popular amongst Mongolians. Like, I don't think that you should evaluate whether or not something is right or wrong based off of the popularity with a distinct populace or even the global populace. If the global population adopted Aztec religion as the primary religion and child sacrifice was a part of that, and you were the 49% or even the 10% that thought child sacrifice was wrong, I still think you would be correct regardless of how popular the exterior perspectives were. Wait, what are we saying is gross? Jacking off to kids. Rifleman for $10 says, please just be a dictator and move on. I will. We're at 53% for moving on. So I'll literally poke the flames a little bit longer and then we'll move on. It keeps the sun from dying out. You want to kill the sun? I needed that. Will I be sacrificed myself or is it somebody else? Will I be sacrificed myself if I oppose the sacrifice? Maybe, but does that change your moral analysis? It might change what you do, but does that could you quietly say that you think that sacrificing children to the sun god is bad, but maybe not be so loud that you yourself are sacrificed to the sun god? I'd still use my system of utilitarianism, good or bad, but the results are not inherently good or bad. Yeah, sure. I think somebody called this, what do they call it? They called it threshold utilitarianism or rule utilitarianism. It's effectively and by the way, I'm totally going to butcher this. So if anybody's a philosophy bro, I'm sorry for butchering it. But I'm pretty sure with a rule utilitarian, what you say is, I have rules up until we reach a certain level of harm. And then I will break my rules if there's a certain level of harm. So just as an example, let's say that we knew 100% proof positive that we can exterminate, there's an alien race that, and I know this is a dumb hypothetical, but just work with me for it for a second. Alien race comes to humanity and they say, you got two options. You give us one child to eat as a delicacy, or we exterminate the entirety of the human species. And we knew that they weren't lying. We knew that they weren't lying. We knew that they were going to hold their end of the deal. And it truly was a trolley problem between one child and 7 billion human beings. Then a deontologist would say, no, it is better to let 7 billion human beings die than to break your rule. Whereas a rule utilitarian would say, normally I think killing kids is bad, but because the balance in this equation is 7 billion human beings, I'm going to break my rule in order to prevent further harm. Ja Rule utilitarianism for the win. True. And so I think that most people instinctively are rule utilitarians, where they're like, well, I don't want to do fucked up shit, and I have a rule about doing fucked up shit, but if there's a greater harm that can be prevented by doing fucked up shit, I'll break my rule. And I think that's most human beings. I mean, the part of sacrifice that is bad is when you use other people because you don't want to do it yourself. Sure. I am a jaw rule utilitarian. That's true. Would philosophy bros stay here for this screed? I don't know. What's the problem with my screed, Jen Winkler? Rob says all utilitarians will be rule utilitarians because calculating the consequences of every time you make a decision in and of itself so difficult that the cost of the calculation would destroy any utility. True. True. I think that's probably true. It's impossible to do a perfect utilitarian calculus. Mental hypotheticals of assured outcomes break moral discussions because certainty and human understanding. Yes, correct. That's oftentimes what deontologists, when you talk to a deontologist, that's what they'll appeal to. They'll start like endlessly appealing to the vagaries of decision making. Yeah. If I add a layer of seasoning, do I get alien technology? See? You're complicating the variables. Is that baby dark meat or light meat? See? Yeah. It's not moral progress unless you can stand up for principles. Sure. Connor will never break the rule and let all of humanity die versus letting one maturation sweeper into chat. True. Here's the utilitarian calculus. We have reached my unbreakable rule. I would rather burn the COG community to the fucking ground, I wouldn't delete my channel. I would just keep making content, truth be told, but delete the Discord and ban any pedophile sympathizers. I would rather lose money and community members than tolerate people who either think that it's morally neutral to masturbate to children or they just want to defend the vague conception of you can masturbate whatever you want to and there's no moral context to it. You either need to keep that opinion to yourself or you need to leave. And if you can't keep that opinion to yourself, then I would prefer to ban you. I would prefer to lose money. I would prefer to go down to 30 viewers. So I would prefer to go down to 30 viewers and lose 2/3 of my income than tolerate that opinion being common and spoken in my community. Christian Blair says, this is why I think Connor is eventually going to become a snarker. It's obvious, like when he repeats, get one guide, you idiot, and stop skipping my questions. I don't even see your questions, bro. When's the last Christian Valeris one before this? Honestly, I think this was Connor making VODs, streaming daily lol. I don't suppose you still have the VOD panel with Kyla and company about the immorality of bad actions the ex was chicken fucking. I think it's there. I think it's there. And by the way, I'm not going to draw as hard of a line about having sex with dead chickens because it's dead. But I do think I don't want necrophiliacs in my community as well. If you're a necrophiliac, if you're a bestial necrophiliac, I would like you to leave my community as well. I think that's another sane line that I can draw. And if we're talking about bestial necrophiliacs, and then a bunch of liberals come out and they're like, well, there's no harm being done to the chicken's corpse, you can fuck off as well. I'm not gonna freak out about it because the chicken's dead. But if you're like a dead chicken fucker, I don't want you in my community. And if you're an apologist for dead chicken fucking, keep that opinion to yourself. So, dogwarts incoming? No, we'll skip dogwarts. We'll skip it. I asked because that panel covers the recent drama arguments perfectly. Probably. We're going to lose half of the audience again because I drew a hard line on fucking chicken corpses. I thought I spent the past year cultivating a based coalition of liberals and libertarians. Literally, did I not know half of the community liked masturbating to the ideas of children and or having sex with the corpses of dead animals? How did I not see this coming? Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and stick by my my social prescriptions that if you like masturbating to the ideas of having sex with children or having sex with dead animals, you should probably leave my community. Who owns the chicken corpse? I hate you. The viewership drops right away. like fucking 30 people just click the back button. I feel like we're 95% resolved. I feel like there's a few embers in this fire that are going to pop up and fuck up the VOD. But I feel we're like 95% there. How about furries? Well, we have to tolerate furries. Diminished Darknut is another oiler, and Diminished Darknut is a gay furry. So now we have to tolerate them. Maybe pretending to be an animal in an anthropomorphic cartoon suit and having sex with other adults is actually the least bad thing in this community. Maybe the least bad thing is being an anthropomorphic adult cartoon animal. Matter of fact, maybe we need to, like, herd all of the dead chicken fuckers and all of the pedophiles into being furries. You know what? This is a result of anti-furry discrimination. By being so hostile to furries, we have actually driven people into further degeneracy. Rifleman for 2 says, God, how many freaks are here? Crying emoji. Apparently a few. Connor, there's a reason why streamers just don't go ever that deep into arguing the morality of every topic. Sure. It's because they didn't want to find out the sexual proclivities of their own communities. I can see it now. What about short stack goblins? Let's not open up that can of worms. Let's not bust out that heard them question mark. What if it's a fake dead chicken furry? All right. Okay, are we good? I feel like we're good. I feel like we're close to good. I think we're going to get fucking 10 minutes into this, and then some fucking drama freak is going to come back in and be like, I think jerking off to kids is morally neutral. And then I'm going to crash the fuck out. I think that's what's going to happen. I think I'm going to get 10 minutes into the VOD, and somebody's going to be like, I think having sex with dead chickens is morally neutral. And then I'm going to freak the fuck out. Ugh. Conserve liberalism. That is horrifying. All right. Well, let's move on. Let's try to move on. Today was horrifying, by the way. Do you guys understand that, like, I rolled into today? I'm going to have to do a new segment again because we've only made it 5 minutes into the content. We've made it 5 minutes into the content. I made 5 minutes worth of points. And then we got fucking drama. We got snarked. We got fucking snarked. Unork says, looking forward to Thanksgiving. Gobble, gobble. God, I hate you. Okay. 58% of the approximately 70 people who are here said, yes, it's time to move on. I will point out that 40-something% of the COG still wanted to litigate sexual morality and community dynamics. And so, I am not trying to be a drama frog. I am not trying to be a self-snarker. I am not trying to crash out. But I feel like I am being compelled. So let's try one more time to move on. All right? One more time. Hi guys, welcome to Counterpoints. My name's Connor. I'm a science fiction, politics, and philosophy nerd, a Marine Corps and law enforcement veteran. I would argue a real Republican, and I'm trying to be a rhino. A Republican who is honest, has integrity, nuance, and objectives, even though my chat is currently bullying the shit out of me in order to crash out. And what I have today is I have Asmongold with a dog shit take. Let's watch the dog shit take and repeat the argument that I've done 2 or 3 times because my chat keeps forcing me to crash out.
You're not being oppressed by the top 2% of society. You're being oppressed by the bottom 2% of society.
Yes.
And the bottom 2% of society have caused all of the manifest problems in your lives are caused by the bottom 2% in society. That's right. That's right. Absolutely. Last time I checked, it's not Elon Musk stealing bikes and living outside the 7-Eleven trying to stab people.
In my rush, I didn't realize I was muted. So, I had this argument earlier. I'm going to try to make it as brief as possible. The argument from the right wing, which I think is spiritually correct, although it's not sociologically coherent, is why can't everybody just be fucking normal? All right. Let's say every drug dealer, every alcoholic, every person who beats the shit out of his wife, every wife who fucking hits her husband with a frying pan, every drunk driver, every fucking person says, you know what? Today and for the rest of my days, I'm going to be normal. I'm going to get 8 hours of sleep. I'm going to wake up at a reasonable time. I'm going to have a moderate amount of caffeine. I'm going to go to work or I'm going to go to school. I'm going to do my best in order to perform my job or, be in school. Then I'm going to go home. I'm going to watch Netflix for 2 or 3 hours, and then I'm going to go to sleep, and I'm going to get another 8 hours of sleep, and then I'm going to be normal again tomorrow. And then if everybody, all 350 million Americans, decided that they were going to be normal, how would society function? And the truth is, homicide would go down, drug abuse would go down, abortions would go down, teen pregnancy would go down, everything would go down. And so as a result, I am sympathetic to the argument that if we all collectively decided to be normal, then society would improve substantially. But the liberals and the progressives, I think, have a correct assessment of society in that, number one, not only is normality variable, not only is normality not the best way to pursue purpose, meaning, happiness, or contentment, the things that make life worth living, but on top of that, some people don't have the capacity to engage in conservative vagaries of normality. There are people who have mental issues. There are people who have schizophrenia. There are people who have physical disabilities. There are people with mental disabilities. There are people with drug addictions. There are people with childhood trauma. There's people with adult trauma. There's people with, who have been raped, who are spiraling out as a result. And so, if we look at the bottom 2%, oftentimes, not all the time, but I would say a substantial amount of the time, they either have physical disabilities, mental disabilities, or trauma that is fueling their antisocial behavior. And so, should the upper echelons of society be compelled through taxation to provide a substantial amount of wealth to alleviate the suffering of the bottom 2% and therefore create a healthier, happier society? And depending on how you answer that question is actually truly whether or not you're like an anarcho-capitalist libertarian or like a statist libertarian or a liberal or a progressive. How much should the state intervene to guarantee people materially and spiritually and psychologically fucking lives? How much should they be forced to guarantee, right? I could rant for another 5 minutes, but I think my point is sufficiently made, and I did get 2 super chats. Anonymous for 5 says, this is like one of those Fridays where the substitute teacher comes in and nothing happens except the classroom getting destroyed. Unironically, that's how I feel right now. Anonymous for 5 says, the fond fight that this stream turned into is the end result of watching Asmongold's content. He truly is evil. True. Rodney says, if you don't tell me poop play is immoral, I'm going to have to get into there because it's moral. Well, I agree that based off of everything else I said, that, if suicide is a moral analysis, then obviously any kind of sexual, what do they call that thing? I forget what they call like sexual behaviors that are improperly socially adjusted. Anything that has deleterious effects should be analyzed morally. That's my answer. Let's move on, though.
That's it. And anyway, Asma reacting as so obviously this is true. Careful, the most impoverished and powerless people in your society are the ones causing all the problems. Well, they're not powerless whenever they rob you. They're not powerless when they steal your bike. They're not powerless whenever they start yelling at you. So I went to I went to IHOP yesterday. I didn't get home until like 1 a.m. right? And so like I went out to dinner with like some friends, and so we're there, and there's obviously a tweaker there. There's a crackhead there. And that person made our meal. I mean, to be fair, it made it more entertaining in a way, but the police had to be called. They had to micromanage this idiot, right? And so, and he's just sitting there eating things of creamer until the police are called and they have to make him leave. And so, like, Jeff Bezos has never come into an IHOP and had to been removed by the police. Jeff Bezos has never tried to steal a bike, as far as I know. Jeff Bezos has never, pooped in the middle of the Walmart. It's never happened.
Okay. Quick anecdote, and because my chat's already heard it once or twice, I'm going to try to be very brief about it. There was an incontinent homeless man who was pissing himself and almost shit himself that I had to take to jail because he had trespass after warning. Talking to him, though, he had like short-term memory issues due to some like car accident or some kind of like childhood injury. But he had worked as a mechanical engineer, and he actually did demonstrate that he was quite intelligent. But after his mom died, he was an anti-theist and an atheist and an edgy boy, and he didn't believe that life had purpose. And so basically, he turned to alcoholism as a slow way to commit suicide because he wanted to die, but he didn't have the balls to like buy a gun and shoot himself in the face. So alcohol alleviated his psychological and spiritual suffering. He knew that alcohol would eventually kill him, but the salve of alcohol also made it so he didn't care that he was going to die. And so as a result, he was slowly committing suicide by alcohol. And this entire like process, the brain injury, the alcoholism, all that kind of stuff, that is why he was incontinent. That's why he was pissing and shitting himself. So people like me, people who are statists, we see people who are suffering like that, and we say, well, this guy isn't overall a bad guy. Like he's not evil. He's not malevolent. He doesn't deserve to be murdered by the state. He doesn't deserve to be euthanized. We should try to help him. We should have government subsidized non-governmental organizations that provide food, shelter, substance abuse counseling, all that kind of stuff, in order to give him an off-ramp out of homelessness and back into society. And that's what a lot of people who interact with homeless people say is like, you know, we should alleviate their suffering when we have the material means to do so. What frustrates me about Asmongold's perspective is that there will very rarely be an upper 2% person who volunteers their material wealth to alleviate the suffering of the lower 2% because they don't have to deal with the lower 2%. They can have chauffeurs drive them through rough neighborhoods. They can send their kids to gated private schools. They can live in gated suburbs or gated mansions. They can use their wealth, the top 2% of the wealth, to ignore the malaise of society. And so from a statist perspective, somebody who believes that it's the government's job to provide at minimum physical security to the population, is it not reasonable to say that a cop beating the shit out of people and putting them into a cage isn't the solution for all of society's ills? Is it reasonable for them to say the military going overseas, beating the shit out of foreign countries in order to compel people to sell goods to the upper 2% for the upper 2%'s benefit? Maybe the pie should be a little bit more evenly distributed so the countries that we interact with from a militaristic basis and a commercial basis And the society that is importing all of those raw materials through imperialism, that there should be some justice. There should be some social, economic, spiritual, material justice within this system. And I don't think that's crazy. I don't think that's crazy at all. And I think that Asmongold appeals to the sociopathy of young men in order to make anybody who gives a shit about anybody else appear crazy.
Did they tase him? No, they didn't. Honestly, they just said, all right, it's time for you to leave the IHOP. And then he started talking. They just waited for him to get done talking. They're like, all right, yep, it's time for you to leave the IHOP. And he's like, okay. Okay, I'm leaving the IHOP now. And that was it. You can't prove that? Oh, of course not. And so, anyway, drinking straight creamer is nasty. He's a nutball. What do you expect? And you have proof that Jeff Bezos has never shit in a Walmart. I do not have proof of that. That's a very good point. I don't. You're partially right. The bottom 2% are the tool that does that, but their NPCs controlled by someone, like the news for someone. So basically, here's the way that I look at it, right? Is that the 1% people cause a lot of problems like long-term, but your immediate everyday issues that you're running into, those are caused by the bottom 2% of society. Those are the people robbing you, stealing your shit, breaking into your car, fucking yelling at you, interrupting the service at a Dairy Queen.
Okay. At the risk of sounding like a lefty, which I promise you I'm not, I'm more conservatarian and I'm more centrist than a lot of other liberals and progressives. Ask my chat about my takes on private sex acts. And let me give you a left-wing talking point, though. Just because the government is not your friend, which is a libertarian right-wing perspective that the government is a bunch of dickheads who can't make it in the private sector, who use the compulsion of taxation in order to justify jobs, 70% of whom don't need to exist in order for society to perpetuate, and therefore the government is effectively a large parasite sucking the blood out of the private sector. That's the way a lot of libertarians view the government. But even if you have that perspective, that doesn't mean, and 90% of the population are workers, that doesn't mean that your boss is your friend either. And oftentimes when you talk to libertarians, they'll do this like weird thing. Well, they'll know that they have like a privately or personally antagonistic relationship with their own boss, but they'll appeal to this like highfalutin romantic vision of entrepreneurs in order to say, well, this system is just. But people who have actually worked shit jobs in the private sector will tell you that there can be injustice in the private sector as well. So for instance, with salaried employees, I was a salaried manager and given a salary of $40,000 a year based on a 40-hour work week. That was the expectation that was set. And that was not very high pay, not even back then. But, and this was like a Fortune 100 company, maybe a Fortune 500 company. It was Nordstrom. They're a fashion brand, a fashion retailer. What they did, though, is they would work the managers to death without overtime. And they would say, well, don't you want that next promotion? Right? That's the way that they get you. So you could go back to your contract and say, you know, overtime hours are only going to be required during exigent circumstances. If you work overtime for more than 2 or 3 months, you can actually apply to human resources in order to get paid overtime. But if you ever made noise about your actual contract and the enforcement of your own contract, your boss would basically go, well, you don't want to make too much noise because that's going to go into your human resources packet and that's going to be considered when you're up for the next promotion. And so as a result, they would basically like exigent circumstances requiring overtime were all the fucking time, and the amount of middle managers who were willing to risk future promotion in order to enforce the stipulated contract between voluntary parties was very low. The reason why I bring this up, though, is because you effectively have to take like a hostile attitude that your own company is constantly trying to fuck you. And so, if we're going to take that constantly hostile attitude, then we're not in a society anymore. We're not in a brotherhood of man. We're not in a fraternal, collective, experience as a species. We're in this like Darwinian cutthroat, fucking vicious, cruel system. And so if you say, yeah, good, skill issue. Well, number one, fuck you. As somebody who did work hard and did have principles besides cutthroat capitalism, number one, fuck you. But number two, why would you be surprised when people who are under that level of cutthroat capitalism, why would you be surprised when they rebel? Why would you be surprised when they try to enforce employment contracts? Why would you be surprised when they use the legal system to try to get justice? Why would you be surprised when they try to form unions of collective labor when you're trying to squeeze every ounce of productive labor out of a human being and give them nothing in return? And so the point that I want to solidify with anybody who's listening to this who might be conservatarian, libertarian, ANCAP, whatever, is that just because the state isn't your friend doesn't mean that your boss is either. Sorry, I should answer this question directly because it's relevant. What form of capitalism is not cutthroat? Social democracy. Social democracy might be a little bit too leftoid for me, but at the same time, what social democracy says, okay, the bosses are constantly trying to fuck everybody and milk every productive ounce out of every worker ever. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to tax the shit out of everybody, especially the upper classes, and we're going to create a robust welfare state that makes sure that the working class and middle class have everything they need in order to remain economically and socially productive human beings. So, be a cutthroat capitalist at your own peril. Because taxation, I've said this to ANCAPs before, I've heard taxation referred to even by libertarians as a riot tax. The reason why you pay taxes isn't because you want, you love the government. That's not the reason why you pay taxes. The reason why you pay taxes is so the government will make sure that the poor people get a minimum amount of food, shelter, and water so they don't come to your neighborhood and chop your fucking head off. Because that's the other option. If you want to just like straight up, just like remove the entirety of the state, you want to remove redistributive taxation completely, you want to remove any kind of social welfare whatsoever, and you want to live in a narco-capitalist shithole, eventually the poors will get pissed off. They will come into your neighborhood with machetes. There will not be enough gates, security cameras, or private security guards to keep off the starving masses, and they will chop your fucking head off. So, if you need to think about taxation as a riot tax to keep the poors pacified, then think about it that way.
Having a problem, stealing something out of the store, that's what's really happening at the dregs of society. So I obviously respond to this in the most accurate way possible. I say, correct. They are functional animals who should be institutionalized via either a prison or mental asylums. They can't be rehabilitated. They can only be removed from society. The biggest weakness of Western society is the lie that all men are created equal. What can I say, guys? I really have a way with words. And, again, people are going to get mad, but that's the way it is. So what'd you eat at IHOP? I got a chicken fried steak and mashed potatoes. That's just what I always get. I like it a lot. So, you doing that? What?
So, well, QC John makes a interesting libertarian point, but I want to make a counterpoint. Okay. He says, no conservatarian thinks that your boss is your friend. However, you're able to separate from your boss and you cannot choose to stop working with them. You can't do that with the government. That's true. But in the 19th century, there was the industrialization of America shifting from an agricultural economy to an industrial economy. And there were like the people who synthesize clothing. There's like a specific, is it textiles? Is that what I'm thinking of? There were textile workers. And what was happening was that the capitalists, the people who actually own the textile mills, they were paying less than subsistence wages. But they kept getting frustrated because their textile workers would work with them for like a year or two, and then they would just leave for the next textile mill up the road where maybe they were getting 5 cents more. And then the textile worker would find another one for 5 cents more, 5 cents more, 5 cents more. Now, it was all less than subsistence. And so there were attempts to unionize labor, but the capitalists themselves were incapable of recognizing a market failure because they didn't recognize that in order to retain talented labor, they needed to increase wages. They needed to increase wages and increase benefits, but they refused to do so. And so my point with that is, yes, in the long run, I think the market ultimately makes corrections to labor supply and demand issues and wage issues. But why wouldn't a lefty be able to argue that the union of labor within an industry is simply a market response? That the people who work at the company have said, you're paying us at a market failure rate. Therefore, instead of negotiating individually, we're going to negotiate collectively. And we are going to secure a market rate that is not a market failure. Now it gets bad because what ends up happening is the unions end up oftentimes being corrupted by organized crime in order to do racketeering. It's also bad that the union busters will use private cops to come and beat the shit out of workers. But why wouldn't union people who idealize what a union is, why wouldn't they just say that they are a response to a market failure? And mathematically, I don't know how you argue that they're not. So, Anonymous for 5 says, Asmongold's also wrong about the creamer. It's delicious. It's just gluttonous to sit there and drink essentially heavy cream. Sure. And by the way, you know, we can all find that a little alarming, right? That, you know, we have homeless people who are turning to calories from the condiments of a restaurant. There should be like a more dignified way to secure calories, but, you know, whatever. Moving on.
What a poet. I guess so. And so I'd classify them as non-functional. It's not the pedophilic elites fucking the world. Oh, because the only people that are pedophiles are rich people. There are no poor pedophiles. No, of course not. Homeless, schizophrenic people, dumbass retard. Yes, absolutely. Homeless, schizophrenic people are going to be causing you more problems on average than whatever, you know, idiot you think is in the Epstein files. You are absolutely right. Whenever the homeless schizophrenic corners you and causes problems at the 7-Eleven whenever you are at the 7-Eleven, this person is instantaneously and manifestly making your life worse on a direct and immediate scale. And that's the way it is. So, not gonna lie, but you're right, I am. And we are.
Do you know what defeats this argumentation? Jeffrey Epstein, allegedly, I'm gonna have to Google this, pushed microtransactions in gaming. Let's see if this is bullshit or not. Yes, resurfaced court documents and emails from 2012 and 2013 reveal that Jeffrey Epstein communicated with former Activision Blizzard CEO Bobby Kotick about video game monetization In newly unsealed court files, Epstein and Kotick were found to have an email thread discussing Call of Duty and microtransactions. Epstein reportedly suggested that players could earn in-game rewards like cell phone minutes, iPhone credits, and virtual items. Another futurist on the email thread allegedly pitched the concept by stating, "I'm all for indoctrinating kids into an economy," a sentence that Epstein and the thread's participant engaged with. A sentiment, excuse me. Epstein and his advisors advocate for the implementation of in-game economies during the rise of Call of Duty microtransactions. There's no indication that this specific proposal structurally designed the systems. But if you wanted to say, oh, well, you know, Jeffrey Epstein just molested a few teenagers from South Florida. Jeffrey Epstein, just flew in a few teenage prostitutes from France and, Brazil, and he just molested a few teenagers. On the scale of things, if a rich person molests a few teenagers, that doesn't impact me anywhere near as much as, the poor homeless guy yelling at me at 7-Eleven. Nah, fuck that. Okay? Jeffrey Epstein is the motherfucker who put every cosmetic behind a $2.99 fucking pay structure. Yeah, and Patriarch says, well, here we go. Microtransactions aren't bad. Fuck that. And the reason why I'll tell you fuck that is back in Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, the OG, all the cosmetics were unlockable through in-game achievement. So, yeah, sure, maybe, I don't even know if Modern Warfare 2 ever had paid cosmetics, but the way that you got a golden gun, the way that you got the Russian red and black camouflage, is you used a specific weapon in multiplayer and you achieved an extreme high amount of kills. Whereas now, because of microtransactions and the lucrativeness of microtransactions, the number one way to get cosmetics is to pay for them. Pay $3, $5, $10, $20. Number two, it's the reason why you have those gay fucking reload animations. Or idle animations. Take a look at this. Call of Duty used to be a video game about semi-modern conflicts between armed groups that had a compelling Hollywood narrative element to the gameplay. And now, wild Call of Duty idle animations. Now in multiplayer, where's the fucking cringe ones? Hold on. Cringe Call of Duty idle animations. I know I've seen some fucking ridiculous ones. No, it's not showing me the one that I want. There's ones where Call of Duty guns are all 3D and animated and covered in dolphins and penguins and shit. There's some truly, I hope you guys know what I'm talking about because there's some that are so fucking cringe. So, anyways. Super chat coming in. Rifleman says, nothing would give me more unholy satisfaction than to see Asmongold would do in the world he advocates for. Well, truth be told, he'd still be a millionaire, so he would probably just rot Max inside some fucking favela on the wrong side of town with bars on his fucking windows, and he would still be a multimillionaire, but he would have to worry about roving bands of gangs machine gunning fucking people in the street immediately outside his house more than he does right now. No offense to anyone. No offense to my Brazilian people, but Brazilian favela gunfights. This is just a substantial amount of Brazil. Is cops in firefights with gang militias in shitty fucking overpopulated, poorly sanitized, poorly electrified city streets. And then the rich and powerful will live in nicer suburban houses that are privately gated, that are physically fucking beautiful. Their kids will go to private schools. But if you want to see what an anarcho-capitalist fucking hellscape lives like, you just have to go to fucking Brazil. There's no regulations about housing. There's no regulation about electricity. There's no regulations about, population density. There's no regulations in the favela. The favela is the way that people naturally live. And what is it? It's an overpopulated, crime-ridden, gun-filled, violent fucking shithole. So why would we want that? You are coming to Brazil, Connor? If I go to Brazil... Hold up. How do I phrase this? I have a girlfriend with whom I'm in a committed, monogamous relationship. If I ever go to Brazil, it will be to ogle. It'll be to ogle. Okay? Can we take a little bit of a coom break? I know I was yelling. At people earlier about being coomers, but to be clear, I would prefer it if you at least complied with European ages of consent while cooming. So, yes. All I'm trying to say, I'm not going to be too gross about it. I'm just going to say that Brazil has a reputation for being a combination. So Portugal is in the Iberian Peninsula, and the Portuguese have been conquered by both people who were French and people who were North African. So they have a mix of North African and European features. And then Brazil also had one of the most robust slave trades on the planet. And so a combination of North African, European, and West African features have been combined in the Brazilian woman to make some of the most attractive people on the planet. Okay? So, I'm in a committed relationship. I like my girlfriend a lot. I want to remain with my girlfriend because I think she's a good person and she's also physically attractive. But if I ever go to Brazil, it'll be to meet a nice young lady like this who is over the age of 18, preferably over the age of 25. Okay? Anyways, moving on.
We are oppressed by that bottom 2%. Why is it that you have to talk to an associate to get the toothpaste? It's not because of Jeff Bezos, it's because of the...
Somebody says it's the largest population of Japanese people outside of Japan. The reason why I know that, Portugal is in Eastern Europe, for your information. What? What the fuck does that mean? Anyways, the reason why I know that Brazil has a large Japanese population is because when I was in Okinawa, there was a exotic dancer named Jade. She's one of the most physically beautiful women I've ever met in my entire life. She was half Brazilian, half Japanese. So she had the body of a Brazilian woman. She had the skin of a Japanese woman. She had mixed facial features. And she was one of the most physically beautiful people I'd ever met in my entire life. There was one problem, though. Okay? One problem. She had a lazy eye. I'm going to see if I can Google the vibe real quick. Beautiful woman with a lazy eye. So hold on. I'm gonna. It's this. It's this. So imagine. Yes, she was an exotic dancer. So she seriously, I'm telling you, one of the most physically beautiful people I've met in my entire life, but then you would be talking to her, and then just one of the eyes would just start drifting off. Hold on. Yeah. See? Like, and she was so nice. She was so nice. She was so polite. She was so kind. She was pushy for a dancer, but in a nice way, in a polite way. And then just randomly, you'd be talking to her, and then this would happen. And you're just like, Jade, you're so beautiful. You're so kind. You're such a nice, beautiful soul. Okay. All right. Moving on. Moving on. Why are we talking about this? Because I'm divorced. Guess what, guys? I've always wanted to tell you about Jade, the half Japanese Brazilian stripper with a lazy eye. I have always wanted to tell you about that. Okay? But the truth is that I was married, and so I felt it was inappropriate to talk about my half Japanese, half Brazilian stripper friend that I met in Japan who had a lazy eye. I didn't feel like it was right while I was married. But now that I'm not married, enjoy that mental picture.
The bottom 1%. That's really it. Do you take leftovers home, or do you have a restaurant, throw it away? I don't really take leftovers because I eat it all. That's the reason why. I mean, like, sometimes, like, I'll get to-go bags sometimes, right? But, like, that's...
Somebody says your girlfriend doesn't know about these streams. She does. But if she got mad about me telling a story from when I was a Marine from... That was 2008. So that's almost 20 years ago. If you get mad at a story from 20 years ago, there's like there's bigger relational problems than that. All right. A wife can get mad because you shouldn't be like being sexually inappropriate in public. I think a girlfriend getting mad about you talking about crazy shit you saw from 20 years ago, I think that would be a yellow flag or a red flag for a relationship, to be honest. Did she work at Chi-Chi's? She did! She did work at Chi-Chi's! Chi-Chi's in Okinawa. Chi-Chi's Okinawa. It was Chi-Chi's. It was Chi-Chi's. It was Chi-Chi's. How did you know? Anyways.
That's very uncommon, honestly. Like, I'll usually just eat all the food. Like, I'm not a big eater, so I usually order light portions to begin with. I'm not a fatty either. Like, I eat a small portion of food. I don't eat like a full meal, and that's always been the case. No, Zach, it's not the mentally ill retard holding me up at knife point that's the problem. It's Donald Trump. Oh, right, yes. All men are created equal. Failing to educate people during their upbringing into Western values is what's failing them. Oh, man, Patrick, I'm so sorry, bro. Like, I'm so sorry. Listen, it's going to get better, all right? It's going to get better. You're going to learn the truth. And you might not like it, but you're going to learn it. And I get what you're saying. What is this here? And I feel like you're deflecting and blaming.
All right, actually interacting with the content for a little bit. Saying that the bottom 1 to 2% of society is incorrigible, and therefore we shouldn't even try. We shouldn't try with NGOs. We shouldn't try with schools. We shouldn't try with public education. We shouldn't try with social programs. It's just not borne out statistically. It's just not borne out statistically at all. Of course, there's still criminals. Of course, there's still people who are going to do vile shit in every society on the fucking planet, and you're always going to be able to point to some degree of them. But the truth is that mass incarceration from the 1990s onwards, it did correlate with a global 50% drop in violent crime. Like social phenomena like World War II and the post-war period correlated with extreme drops in violent crime. Things like the drug war and the mass industrialization of illicit narcotics correlated with an extreme spike in violent crime and overdose deaths. So just pretending that society is not malleable through social attitudes, culture, or programs is just raw fucking horse shit. It's straight fucking horse shit. China and Saudi Arabia are authoritarian fucking nightmares, but their homicide rates are what's the homicide rate in Saudi Arabia? Homicide rate per 100,000. Sorry. Why am I printing things? 100,000 in Saudi Arabia. 0.8. Saudi Arabia has an 80% less violent society than us. And the reason why, I don't think it actually, if you want to say culture, it's because they have a culture of no private weapons. And they have a culture of, if there's a problem, you call the morality police or you call the actual police. Same thing with China. Chinese homicide rate per 100,000, probably less than 1, 0.44 to 0.5. So not only are the Chinese 90% less violent than the United States, they are also half as violent as Saudi Arabia. So there's going to be a correlated cultural institutional impact on that society. So if we flooded Saudi Arabia with private weapons, or if we flooded them with hip hop music, I'm joking with the hip hop music, kind of. But if we flooded them with things that are going to alter their culture to be more violent, you would see a correlated uptick in violence. So to pretend that violence or antisocial behavior is not modifiable through social engineering is horseshit. It's straight fucking horseshit.
From all the architects of society, it's short-sighted. Well, I'm talking about like the immediate negative effects, and also it's about like these people don't really care about the top 1% either, right? Because they're probably
Hans Mayer says, could the correlation with World War II or post World War II be that an entire generation of young men were killed? Absolutely, absolutely, and even the young men that survived had probably gotten their fill of violence. So it wasn't just the, it wasn't just the amount of men that were dead. It was also the attitudes of the men that lived.
Probably going to be okay with other 1%ers and other people like that. And again, I think that both of them are huge problems.
Need to get some water. Be right back.
The more immediate problems are the bottom 2%. They absolutely are. And, you know, we're not talking about problems. Remove the turtles from the oceans and put them in trash there. Oh, that's a good idea. You could take all of the fish out of the ocean, and then we could just put all the trash in the ocean. We don't have to worry about garbage cans anymore. That's a good idea. Yeah, I don't know why anybody thought of that before. That's smart. Wants to agree? What if we had deep thought? The elites control the world works, and it's failing to arrest the bottom 2% of retards. I could be wrong. Well, I mean, like, there's definitely a chicken and the egg, right? I mean, you're right. There's like a chicken and the egg scenario where like the 1% engineer the problems that create the 2% or enable the 2% of the bottom. Like, I think that you're right about that. But you know, again, your immediate problems that you have, those are caused by the bottom 2%. They absolutely are. And that's just the way it is. Let's see some of the other ones. Based opinion. It's this dumbass ramblings of a millionaire whose concept of oppression is not being able to say slurs in a video game without people on Twitter posting about it. What? What is it? No, I was talking about getting stabbed. I was talking about getting raped or stabbed. Like, what are you talking about? Oh my God. So it's, again, the intentional misunderstanding, as always. We love intentional misunderstandings. It's hard to comprehend how much money, effort, and time gets sucked up by the black hole that is trying to take care of the lowest common denominator of society. I like this guy. I like this guy a lot. And for a fantastic example, look at programs like No Child Left Behind, which, at the cost of insane amounts of money and sucking up time away from bright and average students, raise the lower students' grades by single-digit amounts. That's pretty much the universal maxim. In the words of No Country for Old Men, it takes very little to govern good people, very little, and bad people can't be governed at all, or if they could, I've never heard of it. I've heard of it. It's called the El Salvador Maximum Security Prison. Actually, you can govern bad people very easily. So,
Ooh. Good. Good. I'm happy that we've at least been able to establish that social engineering is possible. That's good. I'm happy that I came back to that take. Now, should we live in an authoritarian mass incarceral hellscape where proximity to gang activity results in a life sentence? Because if I had to guess what's actually going to happen in El Salvador, they're effectively doing the Xinjiang cultural genocide model. They took all the military-aged males who had gang affiliations out of society. Homicides have fucking plummeted. Antisocial fucking, like, robbery, homicide, rape, all that shit's plummeted because they eliminated an entire generation of antisocial males. And if I had to guess what's going to happen, is that population is probably going to be left to die in prison, or they're going to be released when they're like octogenarians. And so they won't have an effect, and there will be a generational opportunity to raise the young men of El Salvador without the negative influence of that hyper-violent gang culture. But what El Salvador has accepted is that there, and this is like contrary to every liberal instinct possible, is that there will be innocent men who spend the entirety of their lives or decades behind bars who have committed no crime besides having associations with bad people. And so, if that's like something he's willing to accept, at least we have an argument for what I'm not willing to accept. I want to live in a free society. I want civilians to have weapons. I want people to be able to speak their mind without fear of censorship from the government. I want people to have due process of law. And if he wants to give all that shit up for some fucking gay El Salvadoran authoritarian LARP, then he can fuck himself, right? And if he tries to institute himself, like whenever somebody gets called fascist, right? Political corporatist and flexibly authoritarian, you could go to Bukele and say, oh, look, here's a benevolent dictator. You could look at Tito in the former Yugoslavia, or the former Yugoslavia. You could look at Cincinnatus. Cincinnatus was a Roman emperor who the Roman Empire tried to get to rule for life. And he said, nah, I don't even like all this imperial bullshit. So I'm going to come back so I can fight this war. But when I'm done with this war, I'm going to go be a farmer. You can look at George Washington. George Washington fought and killed the British. He did some pretty violent shit in the name of the American Republic. And then he served 2 terms. And then he was like, well, that's enough for me. I'm going to go retire and go be a fucking farmer. Right? So there are right-wing dictators who use power during a time of crisis and then give it up. But I'm not willing to sacrifice the liberty of the Republic of the United States to serve Asmongold's gay, cringe, ethno-religious, white separatist, white identitarian LARP. It's not worth it to me. When I look at the crime stats that have been halved since the 1990s, I'm not afraid of the Mexicans in my community. I'm not afraid of the black people in my community. Do you know what I do? You know what I do in order to avoid not getting shot? by the violent black element. I don't go to the rough neighborhoods on the west side of Orlando at night. That's how I avoid being killed by violent black criminals. Do you know how I avoid being killed by violent Hispanic criminals? I don't go to the rough Hispanic neighborhoods after 10 p.m. That's how I avoid being killed by Hispanics and blacks. So it's actually like not that fucking hard. So don't go to the rough side of town after 10 p.m. You'll be fine. Bigot. In order to prove that I'm not a bigot, I have to go to the rough side of town at the worst time of night. You know what's crazy? There are communities. So I think that this advice of not going to the rough side of town past 10 p.m. works for 90% of America. 98% of America. All right? But what's funny is when I went to Baltimore in order to shoot the documentary with like Tim Pool and Lauren Southern or whatever, I went to the West Baltimore Police Department and I said, hey, you know, I got 4 white people who want to interview people on the street. They have $50,000 worth of camera equipment. How do we not get robbed or murdered? And the West Baltimore Police Department said, well, do you have a gun? And at first I didn't answer them because I didn't have a Baltimore concealed carry. You know, I just had my concealed carry pistol from Florida. And I think also when I went into the police department, I left it in the car. That way, if they patted me down, they didn't fucking arrest me for violating Maryland concealed carry laws. But they asked me, like, I went to a different police department and they asked me the same question. And I could kind of tell the vibe was like, if you go anywhere, you should be packing. It wasn't like he was trying to get me arrested. So I took a bet and I was like, yeah, I got a pistol. And he was like, good. He was like, good. I'm happy you have a pistol. In the West Baltimore, the Western District specifically, the Western District said, there is no good time to be white in the Western District in Baltimore with expensive things. You will be robbed. You may be murdered. So. Christian Valera says, don't I have Leosa protecting me? That was a Bush era law that allows law enforcement officers in good standing to concealed carry across the country. But weirdly enough, I think the Leosa law only applies to retired police. And I'm not retired. I did 4 years and then I got out. So retired is not the same as like released in good standing. So. I feel like he didn't care about the illegal carry at that point. He didn't. He did. And thinking about it, I think the earlier cops that I was talking to, because I was talking to a guy at the Southern District, but I was talking to guys in the Western District, and the guys in the Western District, their tone was not that they were trying to get me in trouble and put me in handcuffs. I just didn't want to get tricked. But I have a feeling that the Western District cops would have also been like, yeah, if you're walking around here, you need a pistol. Trill for 5 says contributions towards sushi. Thank you. Thank you, Trill. I appreciate you. Anyways, moving.
The same way you govern bad people, this is the thing, right? Is that all of the things that you do to livestock are the same things you do to those bad people. And it works. It works so well. But if you're confusing the two, then you're going to have problems. So Bonvino tweeted about Vlad the Impaler. I saw that. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, but I'm not ready for it yet. So somebody wants nothing is tell you Porous Merge Society are impressing you. Absolutely, they're impressing you. They 100% are. Elon Musk isn't stealing your bike. And I disagree. The bottom 2% are taking up most of the voting block. Well, not all of those. What part of society keeps them from bathing and talking to women? Well, if I was talking to... This is what I find to be so odd. You're
I think he's misusing oppression. Reading the definition, oppression refers to the cruel, unjust, or excessive use of power and authority to control, restrict, or burden individuals. But what he's talking about is a concept called a narco-tyranny, where lefties, this has been an accusation against lefties and American government, by failing to enforce standard laws in the United States, like during the BLM riots, by failing to incarcerate the rioters, by failing to incarcerate, suspected violent black criminals, by letting them back out with no cash bond, by, having a revolving door law enforcement policy where, basically like, yeah, sure, you like, what is it? We have like the largest incarcerated population on the planet. And yet, if you actually talk to cops or if you actually talk to Americans in general, their sentiment is that like violent criminals are routinely brought into the system, let out, brought into the system, let out, brought into the system, let out. Like it's like a revolving door if you talk to a lot of cops or if you talk to a lot of civilians in bad neighborhoods. So anyways, the point of that being that I'm happy that Asmongold has accepted social engineering, at least as like a starting point. I just think that his social engineering is bad. He's willing to give up liberty for security and therefore deserves neither.
Your sense of success in life is approval from other people and being able to take a shower. Like, do you understand that, like, how easy that is? Like, really, like, it's not a big deal. Like, this is some kind of a massive issue. Changing the subject. Oh, they've got to change the subject. Oh, yeah, Asmongold is a moron. You cannot be oppressed by an oppressed class.
Yeah, Christian Vlaris, excuse me. Yeah, it's only for 10 or more years. Yeah, I got 4. So, I didn't want to get jammed up on that. Sorry, I missed my own point because of my ADHD and also I'm getting tired. So, oppression obviously is going to be coming from a government or an authority, but I accept the argumentation that he is stating that a narco-tyranny of letting the bad elements of society run loose is another form of social control. And so he's saying that the overly sympathetic left wing, who always wants to hug a thug and give violent people a pat on the back and have progressive DAs let out shitty people too aggressively, that they are engaging in a form of oppression by allowing the antisocial elements of society to run around unimpeded by state authority. Officer Nasty says, I need to take an Asmongold break for a minute. He hurts my brain so much. Well, sorry, King. Criticizing conservatarians, grift right, gamer right, and dissident right is probably the content meta. Lord of the Nerds! Once banned, infamous reply guy, Lord of the Nerds is back because I think I unbanned him recently. I think I unbanned you on Counterpoints Politics as well, Lord of the Nerds. It wasn't a failure. It was a goal to ignore them. And so thank you for the $2 chip, by the way. But I think that that's a common talking point in the conservatarian gamer right, grift right, and dissident right. It's the intentional policy of the left.
Yeah. Well, what do you think happens whenever a guy tries to stab you at a grocery store? Like, I think that's like oppression. Like, you have to deal with that. Like, yeah, absolutely you can. Yeah, 100% you can. That guy's racist. Of course he's racist. This guy tweets about me all day, every day. He's been talking about me for years. And that's like saying your life isn't worse because the crown taxes 70% of your income, but it's because homeless people exist. And you see how, by the way, this is one of the commonalities. None of these people will even engage or discuss what actually is being said. They have to create caricatures of something that isn't being said so they can argue against that instead. Because the reality is that we have so much engineered discord through having these animals in society. We do. There is so much of it. And now you have people like me calling it out. You do. And this is a dude that couldn't drink water without washing it down with a Coke. Even I thought he was just a meme. Every time I watch this, I can't stop laughing.
Response? Nurgle cultist? I do. Like, what was it, a joke clip or is that a real clip? Because for me, I truly view Asmongold as a Nurgle-like cultist. I think that the reason why he finds water repulsive is because he is a Lord of Decay. And so when he drinks water, not only does it like refresh his body, but it also takes some of the bacteria in his mouth and pours it into his stomach where it's digested by stomach acid, thereby reducing the amount of bacteria in his mouth. But one of the most aggressive ways to get bacteria in your mouth is to keep it awash in sugar. So he took a sip of water and his body almost rejected it because it was so physically pure and it might slightly decrease his decay and corruption. So to make up for doing a shot of a purifying substance, he had to immediately follow it up with rocket fuel for mouth bacteria. Oh my God. Doobie for 10 says, look up the punishment for scamming in Singapore. We need that kind of punishment here for a lot of behavior. Listen, I'm a Singaporean nationalist, bro. The Singaporeans are civic nationalist. They banned conversation about politics and religion because they have like a multi-ethnic, multi-religious polity. And they actually like banned criticism of religion. And they banned they banned some topics from being discussed. You can actually face like a criminal penalty. And I think like throwing gum on the sidewalk is also similarly severely punished. Singapore gum laws. The sale, import, and manufacture of chewing gum in Singapore has been illegal. They don't even let you have chewing gum at all. Since 1992, however, it's not illegal to chew gum. Travelers are generally permitted to bring in a small amount, up to 2 packs for personal use, provided it be declared at customs. Littering. While chewing is illegal, improperly disposing of gum falls under Singapore's strict littering laws. Spitting out or sticking gum in public spaces like on the street and elevators carries heavy fines and potential community service. All right. And then you were saying, what was the exact one you wanted me to look up? Scamming. Singaporean punishment for scamming. Singapore punishes scammers severely through criminal laws, miscellaneous amendments bill. Convicted fraudsters face a imprisonment and mandatory caning. In several cases, the penalty involves 6 to 24 strokes of the cane alongside substantial prison time. Listen, guys. Listen. I'm all for harsh punishments for criminals. Okay? I just want the criminals to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt to have committed said crimes. And if there's a capital punishment, let's say the state is executing someone, then I think they should prove beyond a shadow of a doubt. I know a lot of like liberals and progressives, they want to amend capital punishment to eliminate the practice entirely. I would amend it to beyond a shadow of a doubt. So we got video, we got DNA, we got witness statements. There's overwhelming evidence that barring a schizophrenic break of all of the jurors and of the judge and of the appellate court, you did this crime. And at that point, capital punishment should be enabled after a few, like you get 3 appeals and you're done. As a matter of fact, your first court case is your first appeal. So first court case, 2 appeals, and then you're done. And basically that's like on a 5 to 10 year appellate cycle. And if you're proven beyond a shadow of doubt to have committed a capital offense, you get put down. You get euthanized. We'll give you all the fent. We'll give you a fucking nice T-bone steak for your last day, and we'll give you an overdose of fent. And then, what is it? Littering? I think littering actually should be like public caning. There was a Puerto Rican gentleman, I remember, because he had a Puerto Rican flag sticker in his back window. And he was blasting music, weaving through traffic, and he threw McDonald's wrappers out of his window. I saw him pick up the McDonald's wrappers from his seat, reach out the window holding the McDonald's wrappers, and let it go. So the McDonald's landed in the middle of a median of a 4-lane highway. I think in a just system, if a law enforcement officer saw that, he should be able to use his dash cam, pull him over, use the video from his dash cam, use the body camera footage, and use a sworn written statement to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that that guy did public littering. And then I do think that guy should serve like 24 hours in jail and be hit in the back of his thighs and fucking calves with a bamboo rod. 100%. I think 1 day in jail and fucking 30 hits to the fucking hamstrings and fucking in calves with a bamboo rod. Holy shit. Absolutely. Interpersonal says you love China. As long as there's due process, King. There's got to be due process. You have to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law with a jury of peers. What I don't like about China and Singapore is not necessarily the extreme punishment for bad crime. What I hate is the lack of due process and transparency. Lord of the Nerds for 5 says, there's a long academic history from the left that lays out the argument that the criminal element is a byproduct of capital. It isn't a talking point. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think we've described that. And also, there are leftoids who are dumb as fuck on the internet who think that if you solve material conditions, you solve criminality, which is probably not true. You probably substantially reduce criminality, but you don't eliminate criminality.
You know what? Let's watch it again. Stop flexing. Yeah, stop flexing Fiji water. Somebody said in the chat. That's better. Wow. Who the fuck drinks this shit? Yeah, okay. Alright, we're gonna water the first one, okay, guys? Alrighty. And there we go. I think that's way enough. Maybe a little bit more? Okay. I mean, how does anybody, this is obviously, the thing is that this happened a long time ago, so I can say it. We're obviously memeing here.
Okay, was it a joke? Was it a joke? Do we have any confirmation that this is actually a joke?
Obviously goofing around. Yes. Do you really think I'm watering the plant with Fiji water? Why would anybody it's such a ridiculous premise, and people are just like, oh, they're goyim. They're goyim. I don't know what to say. It's sad.
No. Okay. There are real people who refuse to drink water and will only drink like sweet tea, beer, lemonade. There are people like that. They will drink they will drink that kind of stuff because they hate water. And I've seen other people besides Asmongold actually get physically sick when forced to drink water that does not have some kind of sweetener in it. He's not the only person that I've seen do that. All right. And then not just that, if you say that you don't clean your house to the point that, and by the way, the dead rat thing, that was real, right? Where like a rat died in his attic or some shit, or a rat died in his house. And rather than I don't know, trying to figure out where the fucking dead rat was, and basically like he let the stink of the rotting corpse wake him up every single day? Come on, man. Come on. You can't pretend that like this is, this criticism is coming out of nowhere. We should all know you're joking. Beef Supreme says catch you in a week. Bye-bye. See you, buddy. I don't know, bro. I feel like this is like he could have been joking, but I feel like this is a little the criticism and the concern is not coming out of nowhere.
So, anyway, not my fourth wall. Oh, everybody knows this. Idiocracy being this accurate, starting to figure out. This time we didn't listen to people, didn't know the basics of maintaining their own health. Now they're being put as a pedestal of philosophers of their time. Everybody always, see, this is always what it is. They're always mad, toothless, white trash, Nazi refuses to clean his ass as a moron. How do you know what my ass is like? Why do you think about that? I never think about, you know what? You know who thinks about cleaning their ass? Fat people think about cleaning their ass because they have to do extra. It's like cleaning the way that they are. Like you build up extra excesses. Like a skinny person doesn't think about that because just by bathing regularly, that's something that happens on its own. So if you hear wash your ass, that's probably from somebody who either has a fucking bowel problem that should talk to a doctor, or
Okay, I'm gonna go a little bit ahead just because I don't actually want to hear this person talk about hygiene for prolonged periods in incredibly descriptive and vulgar ways. I'm just going to say this motherfucker's a Nurgle-like cultist. Okay? He's just a Nurgle-like cultist. That's all that's going on here.
yes, exactly. And not that you start improving it, you start go after your sexual orientation. Oh yeah, no. Well, and yes, oh right, about me being gay, exactly. Bullshit. Socialists are parasites on the soul of human progress. Oh my god. He is worth at least $25 million.
Okay, hold on. Lord of the Nerd says, yes, he grew up poor, so you would be surprised the state of living that poor people live in. No, I wouldn't. Listen, I've been to many Department of Children and Families calls on the wrong side of town. There are truly some vile households where I'm a pretty messy guy. My living room is a fucking wreck right now, but there is not like rotting food. And there are places where there is like rotting food, rotting trash inside people's common spaces and inside their bedrooms. And so not only is the smell absolutely repressive, but they like, weirdly enough, they like get used to the smell or whatever. But there have been no attempts to clean in months, sometimes years. It is actually like, it is terrifying. Well, and it's not because like, it's not because I don't know people are like stupid. Like there's plenty of stupid people out there. So it's not surprising to me that like wildly stupid people are incapable of caring for themselves. I've seen it before. But part of the reason why I'm a little bit more casual about Department in Children and Families than like the H3H3 crew and Brit and Devil and Destiny in reference to like the reports to law enforcement and shit. Part of the reason why I'm like more casual about it is because I've been to some truly horrid houses. And if the children were getting 2 meals, a place to sleep, and they weren't being physically or sexually abused, then it was very rare to remove a child from a household. Like, almost unheard of rare. In order for a child to be removed from a parent, you basically have to have not enough food, no place to sleep, and or physical or sexual abuse. Those are pretty much like the hard lines that'll get a child removed. Besides that, you can live in some truly dire, bleak circumstances.
These people really like talking about nothing. They really do. You're not being oppressed by the 2%. You're being oppressed by the bottom 1%. Well, who's the guy that's going to steal the cookie here, right? Like, what's the more likely one, right? Is it going to be the bottom 2%, or is it going to be the guy that already has all the cookies? I wonder, guys. Yeah, really hard to decide. And anyway, the left one. Yes, everybody knows this. We all know this. And I've never heard a point that makes less sense than this one. The reason why I said this is the reason why I said this, is because I knew this would break people's brains. It's because we are so conditioned and so used to just accepting that, you know, like the popular socially acceptable opinion is that the top 1% of the reasons why we have all these problems is that's the reason why I said it. I said it because people are not ready for this. And that's exactly it. And won't steal your sunscreen now? I don't know about that. But you're oppressing these people? Are you gay since when? I don't know. Apparently from like a month ago, according to Twitter. I'm not even really sure. So
because of the shirt, man. I don't know if we're getting much more substantial commentary out of this segment. And I did say that I was going to leave around 1. But I stayed a little bit extra because we got so distracted with the drama. So what I would say is I'll let it flow for another little bit, but if it doesn't get into anything more substantive, I'm probably going to wrap the segment. I think, you know, there's a centrist analysis that I think is okay here, which is effectively like the upper echelons of society do not directly fuck you over. Okay, Elon Musk has not directly fucked me over. If anything, making electric vehicles more accessible to the average person is a good thing for society. PayPal, which allegedly he put some money into or something. PayPal I use all the time. What a wildly useful technology. SpaceX, you know, private space exploration. While it's not personally for me, I'm not rich enough to do private space exploration. I'm happy that that technology exists and it's being paid for by the federal government. So realistically, Elon Musk has not personally fucked me over. Same thing with Jeff Bezos. Amazon has not personally fucked me over. What they did is they eliminated a lot of like middle management retail stores, but then they made all of the products that I routinely buy that are not consumable food items. And by the way, I think they do deliver some food items, but they made all the consumable items that weren't food readily deliverable to my house. That hasn't negatively impacted my life. If anything, that's vastly improved my life. But there are tons of people at the bottom echelon of society who are mentally ill, physically disabled, drug addicted, traumatized, etc., etc. And so if the rich who have created these ginormous economic behemoths are allowed to keep 100% of their wealth, and then society just kind of fucking rots around them, of what good is that society? Whereas I think that what most liberals and progressives say is we can mitigate some of the suffering of the bottom 2%. We can even stop some of the bottom 2% from being antisocial, violent dickheads using taxes for social systems. And weirdly enough, Asmongold believes in this. He just prefers incarceration and beating the shit out of poor people over giving them a path out of their shitty lives. And I think that opinion sucks ass. That's kind of going to be like, in my opinion, the end of the segment, unless we get anything substantive in the next like 3 to 5 minutes.
Well, you're breaking the woke matrix. I know. Look at Aristotle's opinions on non-Greeks. Well, I mean, again, he's probably right. I know what he said, and yeah, he was. And it's an oppression sandwich, oppressed from the front and the back. Absolutely. For sure, there's no way a 65 IQ from skin skill from the rich guy, too stupid to get through security. Exactly. And so, do you think these dum-dums that say shit about you are actually retarded or purposefully ignorant? I think that this is the real reason. It's because these...
Yeah, I'm good. Fuck this guy. All right. What I would say is, well, don't equivocate poor people and poor criminals. Weirdly enough, I think Asmongold did that. Because I'm all for targeting criminals. Dude, I don't know if you fucking know this about me, but I fucking love punishing criminals. But I'm not for fucking over the poor. And by the way, like crime includes trespass. trespassing after warning is a crime. So do you solve that with law enforcement, or do you solve that with like NGOs that help people get a leg up in order to become socially, economically productive members of society? I think it depends on the context. So, all right. Anyways, I'm good. Today was a weird day. I was already rolling into the day kind of weird because my brain was fucking soup from a long couple of weeks. We did cover what we needed to cover today, I think. Might have been a segment. I might have been speaking English for the past 3 to 5 hours. And I think we did have a fight. I didn't really want to have the fight. I wanted to kind of like get in, make a point that Food Shops was likely sexting a fucking 17-year-old and that she was a lolicon pedophile. And I said that this bad behavior often correlates with this bad behavior, and this is an example of the bad behavior correlating. And then we, unfortunately, reopened a wound in the community where basically, like, we ended up relitigating whether or not jacking off to bad shit makes you a bad person. And then we had quite a fucking spicy fight about it. So my apologies for reopening an old wound, but I feel like I've made my position quite clear. So we fought about it. We still maintained 50 to 70 viewers all day. Still got plenty of donations. Let me go ahead and thank the people who donated. Patriarch, if you're still here, I guess sorry for getting spicily mad at you. If you need to leave the community, that will make me sad. I appreciate all the oiling that you've done, but I just have a hard line here, and my hard line is not changing. So you kind of need to make a decision about whether or not we can get over this hard line or not. Doobie says it's time for the songs. Okay. All right. We will do that momentarily. Let me thank the people who have donated. Doobie, Lord of the Nerds, Doobie, Lord of the Nerds, Trill, Doobie, Rifleman, Anonymous Chatter, Anonymous Chatter, Anonymous Chatter, Unork, Rifleman, Grassroots, Nameless Henchman, Grassroots, Hedonic Samuel, Nameless Henchman, Charlie November, Rifleman, Vazraka, Relapsing Complex, Rifleman, and Nameless Henchman. Thank you for the donations today. And then there were additional donations in the morning, but I don't know where they were because we had to end stream. Doobie donated $200 in order for me to watch a 2-hour musical sometime next week. He also sent me a link to The Horse and the Infant plus Just a Man, Epic the Musical Animatics. So I guess we can watch that in a second. Let me pull that up. It's 6 minutes. I can survive 6 minutes. Lord of the Nerds with the 2 says, proud you are the only orbiter that stood up to D-Man. Well, I think other people have, but I think they stood up. Like, so for instance, like Mr. Girl and Lav stood up to him, but I think they stood up to him on their personal bullshit. Not necessarily like on some kind of, hey, I think you're doing fucked up shit and you need to stop. But anyways, why not? Let's just roll right into it.
All right, my brothers, listen closely. Tonight we make the Trojans pay. 10 years of war, they killed us slowly. But now we'll be the ones who slay. Think of your wives and your children. Your families wonder where you've been. They're growing old and yet you're still here. Do what I say and you'll see them again.
Yes, sir!
Diomedes will lead the charge. Agamemnon will flank the guards. Menelaus will let our mates through the gates to take the whole city at large. Teucer will shoot any ambush attacking. Little Ajax will stay back. Nestor, secure Helena, protector. Neo, avenge your father, kill the brothers of Hector.
Yes, sir!
Find that inner strength now. Use that well of pride. Fight through every pain now. Ask yourself inside, what do you live for? What do you try for? What do you wish for? What do you fight for?
What do you live for? What do you try for? What do you wish for? What do you fight for?
Penelope, Penelope, and Telemachus. I fight for ours. Penelope.
What do you try for?
Telemachus.
What do you wish for?
I'm on my way.
What do you fight for?
Attack!
Hey, I fuck with it. Seriously, I fuck with it. I fuck with it. I don't know why you guys are saying it's cringe. I would truly, I can see a Disney adaptation of this. Yeah, funnily enough, he says, Mulan, make a man out of you, clears this. Yeah, sure. But at the same time, like, I don't know who made this. I don't know who made this. But I could see a Disney adaptation of this. And I'm okay with it as well. Like, dude, if you're saying that this is cringing gay and you love Hamilton, kill yourself. You just don't like it because Doobie's the one who suggested it. That's all that's going on right now. Hamilton, in my opinion, it's good, but it has some truly corny moments that I'm just kind of like cringing because, like, I'm an American patriot, but, you know, Hamilton dick sucks the founders pretty goddamn hard. And, you know, it feels a little fucking corny. I feel like Hamilton, while being hailed as like the greatest musical to ever fucking exist, I feel like what I've heard so far is actually less cringe than fucking Hamilton. And by the way, I'm okay with this speaking to like the psychological reality of the people who participated in the Trojan War. I'm actually perfectly fine with that. I think that's cool because we, as people 3,000 years, I know I'm yapping, but hey, fuck it, whatever. We 3,000 years later, we kind of get to judge these like ancient heroes and villains. And we get to say, why did Agamemnon and his brother sack the city of Troy over the breaking of some marriage fucking pact? You know, it's cringe to let hundreds or thousands of people die in the name of some fucking, you know, some fucking hot chick 3,000 years ago. But going down to the soldier level and seeing, you know, this warrior, don't even know, I don't remember, is it Odysseus? I don't remember who the warrior is, but saying like, we've been here for a decade. We've sieged the Trojans. The Trojans are not capitulating. Our king won't let us go home. I will do what I need to do in order to see my family again. That is what motivates warriors. That whole mentality of like, I will survive this. I will kill. I will kill for what I love. That's obviously a huge part of warrior psychology. So there are also people who love nothing. They give up everything. They won't think, and I think I did that as well, by the way. They give up any hope of seeing their significant others again. They give up hope of seeing their families again. Because if they were to hold on to that hope, it would destroy them. So they have to shear apart a piece of their humanity in order to engage in armed conflict. So, yeah, I love psychological analysis of warriorhood. Why wouldn't I love this? Doobie for 10 says this musical is amateur. It's made by a TikTok YouTube guy with a cast pulled from the audience. It actually just got picked up by Bruckheimer for an animated adaptation. That's fucking based. That's based. You guys are saying cringe. I think this is based.
Who was that?
A vision of what is to come cannot be outrun, can only be dealt with right here and now.
Tell me how.
I don't think you're ready. A mission to kill someone's son, a foe who won't run, unlike anyone you have faced before.
say no more. I know that I'm ready.
I don't think you're ready.
It's just an infant. It's just a boy. What sort of imminent threat does he pose that I cannot avoid?
This is the son of none other than Troy's very own Prince Hector. Know that he will grow from a boy to an avenger, one fumed with rage as you're consumed by age. If you don't end it now, you'll have no one left to save. You can say goodbye to Penelope. You can say goodbye to Penelope.
I could raise him as my own, or send him far away from home. Make sure his past is never gone. I'd rather bleed for ya, down on my knees for ya. I'm begging, please.
Will of the gods.
Please don't make me do this. Don't make me do this.
The blood on your hands is something you won't lose. All you can choose is whose.
That's pretty fucking heavy, actually. Like I get it. Like, maybe you guys are like, I don't like the format, I don't like the singing, I don't like this, I don't like that, whatever. This was obviously the fucking calculation of infanticide. When you go back, like, I am so repulsed by the scene in Game of Thrones where the gold cloaks go around and they go to the brothel and they kill the infant, that maybe infants plural. They might kill every infant in the brothel, but they slaughter the infants inside the brothel because they're one of them is supposedly the bastard of the king. And so the Lannisters are trying to secure the lineage by denying any bastards to claim. That's part of the reason why Gendry was under threat. So, yeah, like, dude, like, infanticide turns my stomach so much. Obviously, like, I'm a modern person, so I don't have to think about infanticide in a serious moral calculus. But, you know, I would hope, were I Odysseus, were I forced between the will of the gods and infanticide, I would hope that I would have the strength to tell the gods to fuck off. And that's one of the things that, sorry, just going to read a couple of super chats. Or I read that one. Tag up for 10. Explain how you separate kinks again, because I view it as two adults doing weird shit. If you can stay solid in a woman wearing an all fresh, never frozen beef costume, you're built different. What? Tag up. Let's not relitigate that. If you want to fucking I appreciate the super chat, but if you want to have like an explosive fucking fight over what I sexually judge and what I don't sexually judge, you need to rewind the VOD to the beginning, and or you need to check like the last 30 to 45 minutes of the previous VOD. So, I would hope that I would have the willpower to defy the gods, where they say there are two options. You either kill this child or your entire line dies. That's obviously probably where, like, if somebody was writing about this, they're trying to justify infanticide perpetuated by a hero, perpetrated by a hero. But for me, I would hope I would have the strength to defy the will of the gods. There's weirdly enough, that's one of the things that I really like about Warhammer. And I know it's silly. You guys probably view Warhammer as like a low-brow art form. But with Warhammer, human willpower defies the will of the gods at almost all times. There's Eldari, who talk about the fates and the string of fates in the warp that they can, like, see. There's the chaos cultists, who say that the end of the galaxy is inevitable and that to fight against chaos is folly. And yet, it is like humanity, the Imperium, the delusional idealists who say, fuck you and fuck the gods. And then they do what they do anyways. And I think there is something, like, beautiful about humans telling the gods and telling fate to fuck off. Now, of course, like, especially in, like, a pagan Greek mindset, the gods are always going to get their due. The gods will always, it's like the house always wins, right? The gods will always get their due. So if you tell the gods and fate to fuck themselves, chances are that's going to come back at you in a pretty bad way. But I'm a huge fan of the human willpower to say fuck the gods. Doobie for 10 says, I confess that one of the reasons I wanted your perspective on this musical is it touches a lot on the warrior mindset and the morality of survival. Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
I look into your eyes and I think back to the son of mine. You're as old as he was when I left for war. Will these actions haunt my days? Every man I've slain is the price I pay. Endless pain. Close your eyes and spare yourself the view. How could I hurt you? I'm just a man who's trying to go home, even after all the years away from what I've known. I'm just a man who's fighting for his life. Deep down I would trade the world to see my son and wife.
Ah, sorry, that one got me. Oh. I fucked up. I thought about my own boys. I think Ryan Mulally said this. Was it Ryan Mulally? I think it was Ryan Mulally. Ryan Mulally said, you know, I told Wick that if it was a choice between, you know, strangers on the other side of the world or my family, it's my family every time. And I feel that, like, instinctively. Like, that's in my fucking bones. If it's you or my boys, I'm cutting your fucking throat without a second's hesitation. But then, you know, I'm thinking about this in like a pagan. I'm thinking about a pagan historical mentality, because obviously, like, we've kind of like landed on infanticide bad, you know, like hot take, infanticide bad, right? But then within the pagan mindset, it is a binary choice. So what Zeus is saying is an infant who reminds you of your child or your child. An infant who reminds you of your child or your child. And the truth is, if you add up that calculus and you apply, I'll slit anybody's throat as long as I know that I'm going to protect my child, that becomes a lot more real, a lot more quickly. So I would, once again, I'm thinking with a modern mentality. I'm thinking with, fuck the gods, fuck fate. We make our own fate. But Odysseus is presented with a pagan world in which defiance of the gods is, it's impossible. If you defy the gods, you will pay a price. It's that simple. So if we have, now of course, like I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again. To me, this sounds like, kind of like the justification of Trojan infanticide. It sounds like the Greeks coping with the war crimes that they did in order to morally justify it because the gods demanded it. Kind of like the Romans and the Carthaginians, right? Like the Romans put the Carthaginians to the sword and they salted their fields based off of this moral logic. If we let the Carthaginians, even though we just sacked them, even though we just enslaved their women and some of their children, if we don't put all of the military-aged men, hopefully, to the sword and salt their fields, there will be Carthaginians who regain their strength and sack Rome. And so we either engage in this rampant brutality, or we allow our sons and our grandsons to be killed a generation from now. That's the logic. So once again, I get to look at this thing from a modern perspective, but placing myself in an ancient person's shoes is a lot scarier. Yeah. Hector's son would have fled with Aeneas, helped found Rome, and conquered Greece centuries later. Maybe. And that's like, how do you do that? And then Void of Parrot says, well, what if your kid is evil? What if your kid is a psychopath? Then, of course, you're just complicating the math. Do you have something that you love, but you know that it's evil? And do you have something that's good that you can destroy in order to save something that you love that you know is evil? There's a lot of stories like that too. Funnily enough, isn't like the carnivorous plant story, the food shop of horrors or whatever? Isn't that a story about a guy who keeps killing for something he loves because he can't bring himself to destroy it? I know that's a goofy example, but I almost guarantee you that if you go through like mythology, history, whatever, there's probably an archetype of knowing that the thing that you're destroying is actually better than the thing that you love, but you go with it anyways. Solid Snakes is holy cringe. It's still going. It's because we're breaking down the morality of infanticide. No offense to Rodney in Solidus, but you guys, because you don't like Doobie, said, oh, anything that comes from Doobie must be poison. And so as a result, it's cringe and gay. And then you left and then came back. Whereas what we're actually doing is we're thinking about the morality of infanticide in reference to like ancient peoples, which I don't know how, if you're like a geopolitical nerd, I don't know why that wouldn't be interesting to you. So.
I'm just a man But when does a comet become a meteor? When does a candle become a blaze? When does a man become a monster? When does a ripple become a tidal wave? When does the reason become the blame? When does a man become a monster?
When does a comet become a meteor? When does a candle become a blaze? When does a man become a monster? When does a man become a monster?
I'm just a man.
Fuck my ass. Huh. Yeah. So I actually like this retelling better than the actual story. So the actual story is that it's Odysseus who is arguing for the death of the child. And that he actually does convince everyone that Odysseus must die. But it's Neoptolemus who is tasked with throwing him from the city walls. Wow. I like this version better. I like this version better. I like the gods demanding Odysseus kill Astyanax, and Odysseus actually being torn about it. That's I actually like it a lot better. Updated for a modern audience. I've gone woke. Because rather than like the based traditional narrative of Odysseus, where Odysseus is just like a ruthless fucking sociopath who just wants to fucking murder kids so they can't revenge murder fuck Greece. You know, I'm a fan of the woke reinterpretation where Odysseus isn't a total fucking psycho piece of shit, where he actually struggles with the infanticide of a Greek prince because it reminds him of his own son. Wow. I was not ready for that. Not only was it updated for a modern audience, I liked the update. So, that's interesting. That is interesting. All right, well, let me thank everybody again before we dip out. So, tag up, doobie 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 doobie, tag up, doobie, Lord of the Nerds doobie, Lord of the Nerds doobie, Lord of the Nerds trill, Rifleman, Anonymous, Unork, Rifleman, Grassroots, Nameless Henchman, Grassroots, Hedonic Samuel, Nameless Henchman, Charlie November, Rifleman, Vazraka, Relapsing Hero Complex, Rifleman, and Nameless Henchman. Thank you for your financial support today. I do appreciate it. And yeah, that was fucking good. That was good. I like that. I like that. You got me. You got me to cry. You got me to consider how much I love my children, and would, if I knew for a fact, if I knew for a fact I had to kill someone innocent, because this is the calculation for me, okay? If I knew for a fact that I had to kill someone innocent, specifically a child, in order to save my own innocent child, and it was the trolley switch, it's a binary choice, there is no third option. Do you have the fucking balls to flip that switch and be a part of that moral choice? That's interesting. That is interesting. Well, thank you, Doobie. Thank you for sharing it. I know quite a few people in the community are not a fan of yours, but that was actually morally interesting enough to kind of fuck with my brain. Conserve says you meant to leave an hour ago to get that pre-recorded shit done so you can relax later. True. Just to give you the next 72 hours from me for the remaining parasocial people that are here. Today's my only day off because yesterday and the day before I was hanging out with my kids. Love my kids. I think that's why that hit me so hard. And then today's my only day off because it's Father's Day weekend. My boys will be back tomorrow. My house is a fucking mess. And normally on the weekends, that's when I clean up the house and I work on Counterpoint Sci-Fi, Counterpoint's 40K, Counterpoint's Star Wars. And I want to continue to work on those projects, but I also need to call I need to call Arthur in order to get him to start chopping up VODs for Counterpoint's Politics, because I I don't have the time to fucking go in and give everybody timestamps. I don't have the time to fucking, chop out the 40% of me yapping autistically that is totally unrelated to the content. I need somebody who has balls and is preferably Russian. That way I can take advantage of the financial exchange rate to pay him a moderate monthly fee to chop up VODs and post 3 VODs a week for Counterpoint's Politics. That way we can build a video library of enjoyable VODs for people to watch. While I'm working on Counterpoint Sci-Fi, Counterpoint's 40K, and Counterpoint Star Wars in the background. So, I have to call Arthur tomorrow. Apparently, and I agreed to this already, I'm hosting a debate between Doobie and Fellrunner in order to try to they don't necessarily have to set aside their differences, but to come to some kind of diplomatic solution where my chief mod and a reviled oiler can come to some kind of consensus on their criticisms of each other. That's supposed to happen tomorrow night. And that's on top of hanging out with my kids for Father's Day. So it's going to be a tough weekend, but we got to push through. Huh. What a fucked up day, huh? What a fucked up weird day. Started with the morality of private sexual indulgence. Had a middle segment about how Asmongold is a Nurgle-like cultist advocating for a coronate fiefdom, and then an ending segment considering the morality and personal choices of infanticide. That's a weird day. That's a weird day. Why don't I play Warhammer Fantasy again? Because it takes too much fucking time and money to build a goddamn army. I don't even play 40K. I have 3,000 points of Death Watch right there. It took me like 2 or 3 years to hand paint them because I can't fucking afford to have a paint studio paint all my models. Dude, paint studios are expensive as shit. And so I only have 1 Warhammer army. I have like 9 Warhammer armies built in my brain. And I don't have the time, money, or energy to paint another 9 armies, let alone get into a whole new miniature war battle setting. I was actually literally thinking about moving to Kill Team so I could save money. Because with Kill Team, you just have a dozen models. So why wouldn't I just, have my Death Watch army, get the coolest models from each faction, and play Kill Team instead? Because Kill Team is also like apparently it's supposed to be a way faster game. Warhammer 40K, 2,000 points. They say it'll take 2 to 3 hours. When I play it, it takes like 9 hours. Just pay someone else to paint them for you, forehead. Dude, that's expensive. It's like $30 an hour, easily. It's 20 to 30 bucks an hour in each model. Takes like 3 hours if it's done right. Now, there's speed painters who can do it in 20 minutes. They can do each model to a moderate quality for 20 minutes. But that's not what I want. I don't want a moderately quality painted miniature. I want a beautifully, either I want to paint it or I want it beautifully painted. And so you can pay 20 to 30 bucks an hour. You could get 5 models. And I have like 100 models, and that's around 2,000 points. Anyways, you can do the math, but it's fucking expensive. It's very expensive. I got kids. What time are Duty and Fel going to go gloves off? Probably 9 p.m. EST. Let's be real. Somewhere in there. Sometime in the evening after my kids are going to bed. Just pay someone else to do it, forehead. Come to Kill Team. It's freaking awesome. Good. Good, Ernie Lee. I appreciate your endorsement. I'm a big fan. I'm not a big fan. I wish I could have a 2,000 point army of every single Kill Team. But if I get to have Adeptus Arbites, if I get to have Enforcers, if I get to have Gangers, Necromunda Gangers, but I could use them as like Gene Stealer Cult, proxy Gene Stealer Cult for whatever. I could do Gene Stealer Cult. I could do whatever. Truth be told, I think I've been agonizing about this for so long. I think I am going to move to Kill Team. Because I've been agonizing about eventually Patriarch or Grassroots dying and leaving me in their will. And to be inheriting hundreds of thousands of dollars with which to build all of my Warhammer 40K dream armies. And I don't think that's happening anytime soon. So I think I have to move to Kill Team until Patriarch or Grassroots Hechbon dies and leaves me in their will. So paying for minis or for food for your kids. Yeah, that's actually the calculation. Tau player. Yeah. What I want to do, Ernie Lee, funnily enough, is I want to do a Tau list, but I want to do like Dark Age of Technology humanity. I don't own anything like a real man. Interesting. Well, leave me your Warhammer miniatures then. So, all right. Anyways, I think it's time. I appreciate you guys. I do appreciate the 40 to 70 people who hung out today. I appreciate all the super chats. I appreciate the community. Despite our schism on sexual morality, I appreciate you guys continuing to hang out. Please start doing sissy squats. You'll get jacked. All right, I'll go YouTube sissy squats. Solidus says, I need you to acknowledge that I hate musicals. Okay. I will acknowledge that your criticism of the Doobie content didn't come from your specific hatred of Doobie and or your hatred of moral consideration surrounding infanticide, but comes specifically from the fact that you hate musicals. And I will amend me being a fussy bitch. Just the thought for future conservatarian content that actually has somewhat meat. Check out Adam Carolla. For real? The Man Show guy? You want me to check out the Man Show guy for conservatarian content with meat on the bone? That's an interesting recommendation. Are we talking about the same Adam Carolla? I just want to see that answer before I click end stream. Why no emotes? I got emotes. Watch me. I'm going to spam emotes. Look at all my emotes. I got so many. I got 5 emotes right here. I got emotes. Musicals are hella gay. With that being said, Mamma Mia was based. Well, there you go. Well, I love... oh, I know how we're going to end stream. Hasa Diga Ibo Y. Book of Mormon. All my anti-theists are going to love this.
In this part of Africa, we all have a say. Whenever something bad happens, we just throw our hands to the sky and say, Hasadiga Ibowai.
Hasadiga Ibowai?
It's the only way to get through all these troubled times. There's war, poverty, famine. But having a saying makes it all seem better. There isn't enough food to eat. Hasadiga Ibowai. People are starving in the street. Hasadiga Ibowai.
Well, that's pretty neat. Does it mean no worries for the rest of our days?
Kind of. We've had no rain in several days. Hasadiga Ibowai. And 80% of us have AIDS. Hasadiga Ibowai. Many young girls here get circumcised. The clits get cut right off. Well,
And so we say up to the sky.
Hasadiga Ibowai. Now you try. Just stand up tall, tilt your head to the sky, and list off the bad things in your life.
Somebody took our luggage away.
Hasadiga Ibowai.
The plane was crowded and the bus was late.
Hasadiga Ibowai. When the world is getting you down, there's nobody else to blame. Well, raise your middle finger to the sky and curse his rotten name.
Wait, what? Hasadiga Ibowai. Am I saying that right? Excuse me, sir, but what exactly does that phrase mean?
Well, let's see. Ibowai means God, and Hasadiga means fuck you. So I guess in English it would be fuck you, God.
Hasadiga Ibowai.
What? When God fucks you in the butt. Hasadiga Ibowai. Fuck God right back in his cunt. Hasadiga Ibowai.
Excuse me, sir, but you should really not be saying that. Things aren't always as bad as they seem.
Oh, really? Well, take this fucking asshole Matumbo here. He got caught last week trying to rape a baby.
What? Why?
Some people in his tribe believe that having sex with a virgin will cure their AIDS. There aren't many virgins left, so some of them are turning to babies.
But that's horrible.
I know.
Hasadiga Ibowai.
Here's the butcher, he has AIDS. Here's the teacher, she has AIDS. Here's the doctor, he has AIDS. Here's my daughter, she has a wonderful disposition. She's all I have left in the world. And if either of you lays a hand on her, I will give you my AIDS.
If you don't like what we say, try living here a couple days. Watch all your friends and family die. Hasadiga Ibowai for you. Hasadiga Ibowai. Fuck you got in the ass, mouth and cunt. Fuck you got in the ass, mouth and cunt. Fuck you got in the ass, mouth and cunt. Fuck you in the eye. Fuck you got in the ass, mouth and cunt. Fuck you got in the ass, mouth and cunt. Fuck you got in the ass, mouth and cunt. Fuck you in the other eye.
Okay. So to be clear, while that was incredibly sacrilegious, the entire Book of Mormon is actually almost wholesome, where a couple of... I don't know why that did that. But a couple of Mormon missionaries go to Africa. They go to Uganda on a mission in order to preach the Book of Mormon. And when they're there, the people who are like so materially deprived, infected with AIDS, there's a warlord, there's this, there's that, there's all this crazy shit going on. They hate God. It's not that they don't believe in God. They hate him. And so that's the song about hating God. So what ends up happening is there's a Mormon missionary who's kind of like idealistic, and there's a Mormon missionary who's kind of cynical. And the cynical one, like, he still believes in the faith, but he more believes in the faith as like an ego trip. And so, like he thinks that he's important, not that the word is important, not that the scripture is important, not that the moral system is important. He thinks that he's important. And so he ties up the mission in his own ego. And as a result, he goes and does something stupid. I think he goes and tries to proselytize to a warlord. And he's either like beaten, tortured, kidnapped, and he might have been sodomized. I don't remember. But after being beaten, tortured, and maybe sodomized, I forget if he was sodomized, he loses his faith because he was like, I thought that you put me, your humble steward, on this mission in order to preach the divine word. How could you let me be beaten, tortured, kidnapped, and sodomized? What the fuck? And so he actually loses his faith. But what ends up happening is he goes back to the tribe, who actually a substantial amount of them have converted. And then they see that things are getting better because they're like following the moral system of the Book of Mormon. They're, not raping babies anymore. They're reducing the spread of AIDS. They're praising God instead of cursing him. They're focusing on the positive parts of life. And so as a result, the tribe or whoever they're talking to in Uganda, actually like their material lives are still extremely deprived, but their spiritual life has exploded. They feel like they have purpose. They feel like they have a life raft. They feel like they have ideals. They feel like they have the capacity to overcome their hardship. And so what ends up happening towards the end of the Book of Mormon is there's this kind of like a reconciliation from the cynical guy, who originally wanted to go to Orlando, by the way. That went off like a fucking firecracker. I saw the Book of Mormon in person. And when they said, like, where do you want to go? And he's like, Orlando! Like, everybody in the fucking theater lost their goddamn minds. It was so funny. And apparently that was just like a part of the original script, was that that he wanted to go to Orlando for like the fucking mini golfing and Disney and all that bullshit. So what ends up happening is the cynical, egotistical Mormon missionary actually reconciles with religion. Not that he's like fully found his faith again, or that he specifically believes in Mormonism, but more that he believes that religion is scratching at something real, and communicating ideals to hopeless people can actually make the world a better place. And so it kind of like, it really does kind of end up in this like atheist, agnostic, deist, moral evolutionary perspective on religion. And that's kind of the conclusion of the play. And it's funny. It's fucked up. I think the music is pretty good. I think the vocal talent is pretty good. And I like the plot. So, maybe Doobie doesn't like it, but there's a film. Yeah. There's a, I think there's a movie adaptation of it, but it was a Broadway play done by Matt Stone and Trey Parker, the writers of South Park. And it was like lauded as like a masterful achievement for a long time. B for Brian says opium for the masses, but here's the thing. Opium for the masses can be viewed cynically, where you think, oh, they're a bunch of drug-addicted rubes. Or you can view it in a little bit more of a nuanced way, where effectively, like, people who are injured, people who are hurting, they might need painkillers to help dull the pain. And so opium is an addictive drug, and opium can also be used in medicine. So if you take the cynical route, you're just going to say, oh, religion is an addictive spiritual drug for the disillusioned. But if you kind of take a less cynical view of that quote, then you can say, opium for the masses is it's actually medicine for people with like spiritual pain. So I'm just shit talking, by the way. I've never seen it. It's good. It's good. It's very South Parkian. It's very vulgar. It's very rude. There's a lot of shitty things in it that are kind of like crass, but overall I would still say it's entertaining. Is it based on a true story? No, it's not. Like, Mormon missionaries do travel across the planet in order to preach Mormonism. And then also, I'm sure that weirdly enough, the Mormon church actually bought ads in the play in order to say, like, hey, you've seen this goofy fucking play. Why don't you come check out the church? But which actually shows their good humor, by the way. I applaud the Mormon church for doing that. But I think that this is based off of Matt Stone and Trey Parker being raised in Colorado, which is obviously near Utah. And so they do base a healthy chunk of Mormon perspectives and religious prescriptions and the story of the Book of Mormon. They do base it on the actual religion. So, yeah. The realist take is that religion is mass psychosis. Well, you're probably a cynical dickhead, so love you, Void a Parrot, but I bet you're pretty cynical. The plebs need religion. They turn into beasts otherwise. Well, there you go. There you go. If you look at it from an evolutionary psychological perspective, that's at least a step more in my direction. Oh, we're still going? I thought you were wrapping up. Yeah. I said that, and then I just never left. But it is 2:30. So weirdly enough, even one of my bosses, Christian Valeris, who used to insist that I stay until 2:30, even though I said that I was going to leave at 1 p.m., I stayed until 2:30. So, yeah. Pretty fun. Pretty fun. Better response than the Catholics over the Da Vinci Code. Absolutely. I went to the same high school as one of the creators. That's cool. That's cool. Yeah. What? I'm a pretty optimistic guy. Oh, okay. Well, plenty of anti-theists are cynical, nihilist douchebags, so I'm happy you're I'm happy you're an optimistic nihilist or optimistic anti-theist. Good for you. That is an interesting combination of variables. Religion is a mechanism that leverages Eleanor Roosevelt's quote by persuading philosophies via prophets. True. What is it? Great minds talk about ideas, average minds talk about events, and small minds talk about people. Weirdly enough, parables are communicating moral messaging through discussions about people. The history of the Jewish people trapped in the Old Testament, which is mixed with a healthy chunk of mythology, but that's talking about events. And then the Psalms and what is it? The book of Psalms and the book of... There's another book right there, isn't it? There's one that was written by Solomon and one that was written by David, or am I tripping? I don't know if I'm tripping. But the Psalms, and there was another book right there. They're primarily like axiomatic capturing of like moral and spiritual ideas. So it's true. The Bible has a little bit of everything for everybody. Same with being a progressive and not a commie. Interesting. You can be anti-theist and not be a sourpuss. All right. Well, good for you. I am proud to know somebody who is not a sourpuss. It's sand people, bro. Yeah, dude. Egyptians were the most ancient civilization on the planet who achieved archaeological marvels centuries or millennia prior to everyone else. And they were sand people. And same thing with the Greeks. The Greeks weren't sand people. They were mountain ocean people, but they were still mountain ocean fucking barbarians. You don't think that you can learn shit from ancient barbarians? Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and Songs. Psalms, Psalms. It's probably Proverbs and Psalms that I'm thinking of. Counterproductive. Okay, anyways. I think I've tortured my remaining 40 viewers sufficiently for today. I will see you guys on Monday at 9:30 a.m. Despite the hostility, I still parasocially love you guys. I'm sorry that we're experiencing a community schism over the sexual morality of private conduct, but I think I've delineated where my lines are. I think you guys know where the lines are. Make your decisions, no hard feelings, and I appreciate you, and I'll see you on Monday.